And then, I think Sony shit the bed. We all know at this point that Sony has essentially not cut funding, but they're no longer fully supporting PSVR 2, which is disheartening, which is why we saw practically nothing at the State of Play.
But I did like what I saw. Behemoth looks really good.
And the Summer Games Fest was also kind of a snooze, if you ask me. But that's kind of like my opinion and my stance on like where things are in terms of the game presentations.
All right. Well,
what were your thoughts in general?
I mean, let's what I wanted to do first is I want to take a bathroom break and then we'll get the podcast started. Okay.
Sure. Sounds
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the podcast, the GPhorce podcast. I'm your host, Adam Wolf, and with me, as always, is my lovely brother, Chris.
Oh, lovely.
Lovely.
Oh.
It's so lovely. He's lovely.
Thank you, sir. Yes. I didn't know I was so lovely.
Welcome back to the GPhorce podcast, where games are spicy and so is cayenne pepper. We're going to be talking about the gaming conferences that happened. I know we're a little late on this one. It's been about a month since we've gotten together to do this, but there's a lot to talk about. And we just talked for an hour on one of the conferences that had nothing in it. So I don't know how that was possible, but we did. So I'm going to try and, shift the weight around here to figure out how to place that. But we are going to be going through the Summer Games Fest, the Xbox Showcase, and the Ubisoft Forward, which I wrote no notes for because I was like, why bother? Mm-hmm. If you probably heard, Chris gave his 2 cents on the whole thing. Well, at least with the his thoughts on each conferences. And he, of course, asked me what I thought. I pretty much share the same sentiments. Summer Games Fest was all right. There were a couple games in there that I cared for, but for the most part, it was okay. And then Xbox, as everybody has been saying, absolutely destroyed everybody else. So with everything that they showed, again, it'd be nice to see more developer commentary on the work that's being done. But overall, I think Xbox is showing a lot of promise. The fact that, what was it, 90% of their games they announced are coming out this year, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's a crazy number.
So, but I mean, that's what people were waiting for. They're like, where the hell is Xbox? What happened? We got nothing. They're not announcing anything. Because last year it was a complete flop, and we're already halfway through this year, and it's like, where is the Xbox? And then they just dropped the ball on everything. They were just like, here it is. Here's everything. Whether some misses, some misses, but I mean, whether or not that's good business, I have no idea, but it worked. So we're just going to start with Summer Games Fest, and like I said, we just talked about Ubisoft for an hour, so I'll put that in the end somewhere. I'll try and figure out a workaround. But I put notes on everything that I liked. I'm probably not going to go over all the notes because this could literally take forever. Hell, we could do one episode on each conference. That's how many. Could. Yeah, that's how many notes and how many opinions we have. But I think we'll just quickly go through each one and say our little piece and move on to the next. So to start off for my list, Summer Games Fest, they started off okay. Lego Horizon Adventures. It's Horizon Zero Dawn in Lego form, and it's going to Switch, which is weird because it's Horizon. That's a Sony property, but it's also Lego, which is not. So I don't know. It's really strange how I don't know how they landed that. But
Sony has been going in the direction of putting things on a PC, right? So they're probably just expanding their horizons on. Kind of intended, I don't know, and nice. Probably building up relationships with. I mean, they built up a pseudo relationship with Microsoft to some degree, since some of their titles are over on Xbox,
right?
But they've also done it on PC, and now maybe they're doing it with Nintendo a little bit more. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but the Lego games always have a sense of charm. I don't really care for them. They're quirky, they're funny. I think some of the humor hits. And I still have yet, and you can hate me for this or like shame me, whatever. I still have yet to play any of the Horizon games. I have the first one. I haven't played them. I haven't even played the VR one yet. But like, I don't know. Maybe one day I'll get to it. But it looks all right. It's a Lego game.
I would love to play. This is going off a tangent already. I would love to play the VR Horizon. I'm not paying $50 for it. That's absurd.
I don't blame you.
It's absurd. $50? It's not even a full game. I mean, it is, but it's not like,
It's a 5-6 hour experience.
Yeah, it's like it's a $30 game at most. So that's absurd. Anyway, so yeah, I just wrote down graphically very appealing because the Lego games have become very, very good looking games. Great voice acting, very silly. Coming to PC and Switch day one, which is again, I think. And then the last note I've made is it's a Lego game. But I think Lego might have had something to do with it coming to the Switch because it's their property, so they can say, okay, you can do this. We want it on the Switch though, and Sony was like, fine. But
it's a good excuse and a good segue to get into the Nintendo universe. I think that's a smart move by Sony, honestly.
Well, I mean, it's either that or Lego paid them a big buck. So it looked good. It's a Lego game. If you know what a Lego game looks like, it looks like a Lego game. Next one that I'm really sad that I didn't play more of the original, No More Room in Hell 2. It kind of looks sick. It's my notes are big fan of zombie shooters. Duh. Disappointed that I didn't play the first game. Visually very nice looking, and it reminds me a lot of Back 4 Blood. And I know people aren't like really big into Back 4 Blood. They thought it was kind of a flop, which technically it is. You could say, oh, it's like Left 4 Dead. I'm like, it doesn't look like Left 4 Dead. That's the thing. It's got a very strong resemblance to Back 4 Blood. But No More Room in Hell was probably, to be honest, a far more popular IP than even Back 4 Blood. But I like Back 4 Blood. It looked good, and I'm sad I didn't play the first one.
What I thought.
Go ahead.
What I thought about No More Room in Hell 2. I don't even know this title. I'll be straight up. I don't think I've ever heard of this title before until I saw this. And this being the second one, I'm assuming like the first one may not have been nearly as popular, or maybe I don't know, maybe I'm not as involved in that kind of
it did
area
well
of gaming.
Enough. I think it was a free to play game, so
what they said it was an asymmetrical horror survival with permadeath, and part of the aspect of this game was to find other players and escape. And what that reminded me of was Dead by Daylight, big time.
Yeah.
Except Dead by Daylight is glitchy as hell. I don't know why people still play it.
I don't like Dead by Daylight. I think it looks so stupid.
Visually, the game looks good. The concept, I think, is great. I love the concept of Dead by Daylight. I love it. I truly do. Dead by Daylight just is glitchy. But this actually looks intriguing to me. I'd be interested in playing it, especially because you start off by yourself and you got to find other people to actually escape, and you got to survive together. I think that's a really cool aspect, and it being within the horror genre, this could be very enticing to a lot of people.
Yeah. That's enticing to me. So, I mean, I didn't realize that it was an asymmetrical, but I'll give it a shot either way. It's a first-person shooter. What can I say? The next game I have on my list is Neva. It is that beautiful-looking game with the dog deer.
It came from the developers of
Grease.
Grease.
Amazing art style. And it's yet another, I don't know if this fully no dialogue, but like it's another one of those games that really intrigues me. Like back on there's what the hell was that game? Runic Games' last game before they changed their name. There's a Hob. There we go. There's a lot of games that I find more intriguing when there's zero dialogue. because and this is one of them. It really intrigues me because it's told through emotions, and you have to be very good at relaying those emotions. Like I said, Hob,
Journey was a big one on your list.
Journey was that made me feel so many emotions. There's Ori and the Blind Forest.
Oh, beautiful.
Ori and Will of the Wisps. There's no dialogue in any of these games, but they are the most beautifully told stories ever. So
yeah. Well, what I learned about Neva was, yes, see the art style turns me off.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. It's just I don't know. It just doesn't pull me in. I can appreciate it because it's definitely an art style that is appealing to people. It's a very oil painting pastel kind of thing.
Yep.
Which is pretty in its own right. In the name of the dog / wolf is Neva. So the story is actually about you as the character raising this dog from a little pup
dog deer
to a big dog into a dog deer. Yeah, I actually wrote dog with antlers ?
Dog, it's a dog. It's a doggy deer.
And so what I've learned is that Neva will actually behave differently throughout its growing period. So as a pup, it'll be more spontaneous. It'll be more fearful, not very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And as you progress through the story, it becomes more of a companion, one that can be productive, help you in puzzles and all this other stuff, fight and all that. And so, like, knowing that knowing the mechanics of the game is actually more compelling than the visuals to me. So whereas before I wasn't nearly as interested, I looked a little deeper into it, and it actually sounds like a pretty interesting game. I might actually give it a shot.
Oh yeah. Next game, Civilization 7. Hype. Yeah. I'm a big fan of the franchise. I will say that I haven't played every single one. I started with 4, did a little bit of 5, was really engrossed in Beyond Earth, which is a 5 derivative or break off. And then I haven't played 6 yet. But believe it or not, Chris, it's been 8 years since Civ 6. I'm kind of
believe that.
Just blown away at the fact that it's been that long already. I swear it just came out. But that was only a cinematic. Not much is known about this one. It's Civilization. So I'm sure it'll just be more Civilization with maybe some quality of life enhancements or whatever. I'm just really excited. It's Civilization. Black Myth Wukong, they showed another cinematic. Nothing new. The cinematic looked good. I mean, it's gonna look good, but there was no gameplay or anything. So I just wrote just cinematic trailer, no new information.
I'm just biasedly hyped towards this game, man. I just have so much bias towards it, especially because there was I don't know if you read this news bit, but the developers of Black Myth Wukong turned down a particular deal.
I did,
and I think that had something to do with DEI, which we talked about in a previous.
It was I think it was Sweet Baby Inc.
Yeah,
who offered them $7 million, and they were like, nah.
It's like thank God, man.
Game science, baby. Let's go.
It's like you could toss money numbers at us, but we have respect for the title we're working on, and we don't need that stuff in our games. We have a story we want to tell. This is all based in our cultural mythology, and you're not going to touch it. And I respect them, a lot for that. But aside from the political, social political aspect of things, Black Myth Wukong, visually beautiful, everything that we've seen. The game mechanics look really cool. The fighting sequences look really cool. I'm just super hyped for this game.
Yeah, that game is very much on our radar because ever since Black Myth Wukong was announced, what feels like forever ago, there have been nothing but Chinese developers popping up all over the place. And I'm like, I'm here for this. Like, we're going to talk about another game in the list as well in a few minutes. But I say a few minutes. It's actually... Where is it? Is it not on here? Or was it in the...
It's at the very end. Talking about Phantom Blade?
No, there was another one called...
Edge of the... Or Wind of the something.
No, it's... it was... what the heck was that name? It was another Chinese one. It's like... It's not... it's almost like... anyway, so...
where the winds meet?
Yes, that one.
That was the state of play. That was at the
Oh, that was the state of play. Okay, well, that one again, Chinese, and it looks amazing. All right, so tangent, but bring it on, Chinese developers. We're ready for you. Next one that looked quite intriguing to me was Once Human. It's a co-op shooter. It's like sci-fi meets paranormal. Very strange creatures, massive creatures, and you're just this tiny little human with a gun, and it just looks good. It's a co-op shooter. Looks like a ton of fun.
It's out on early access right now. I think you can buy it and play it. I actually watched Asmongold and this couple, Vince and Cassie. I watched them on Twitch, and they've been playing it since like alpha state and whatnot. So like it's kind of been around, it's been showcased. The concept is really cool and really gives me Matrix vibes because your character at the start kind of comes off of this machine as if you were like a test subject. It reminds me a lot of the Matrix, when they come out of the Matrix itself and you find out like you're just being farmed. It kind of gives those vibes, but it's a survival thing, and you can create these plots of land and build up your base. You can find these incredible weapons. Some of the bosses are hard to fight. There's PvP, and some the way they did PvP, from what I understand, is like there's a fixed location where PvP can be done,
right?
And then outside that, like there isn't. But it looks really cool. It's another survival horror, like sci-fi type of game. I mean, if you're into that sort of thing, I mean they're listening to the gamers, and they've been making changes since. So if you want to get into it now, I think it's I think you can get early access.
It looks really cool, and I mean, my stance on early access. It really is dependent on. I've only done 2 early access games, and they were both Epic games. So it's I really want to have to buy into it. But if it comes to PlayStation, then I'll be happy.
Sure.
Next one was Space Marine 2. Very excited. Didn't really show much else during that one. I think it was another cinematic or something like that. I can't remember. But they recently put out more gameplay footage, and I did a video on that, so go ahead and check that out.
Do it.
It's already at like just under 200 views, which is awesome. Thank you guys so much for the views, by the way. Everybody seems to love these trailer reaction videos, so I'm going to keep doing them. So Space Marine 2, Saber Interactive, you guys rock, dude. You're like one of the few great developers left, so keep doing things. Your thoughts on Warhammer?
Never been involved with that the lore or that universe, so I really don't have opinions on it other than Warhammer is obviously very notably a popular game, and the game looks good. I mean, it reminds me of StarCraft Marines, right? That's like it reminds me of the StarCraft Terrans, and that's intriguing. The fact that it's a first-person shooter, and knowing that Warhammer is what I say, first person?
Yeah, I mean, it's third person.
Yeah.
It's a shooter.
The third-person shooter. I mean, Warhammer is a well-established IP. People love it. Obviously, they do good work. I think it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a big hit for sure.
I think you would like this game because you like World War Z.
I do.
It's the same developer.
I wish I played more of World War Z.
Yeah, I
wish I did.
I just recently installed it.
I saw you playing it the other day.
Completely forgot to do the PS5 upgrade. I'm like, oh, this runs better. So I think you'll like Space Marine 2. One, because you can play entirely in co-op, which is amazing. And they mentioned in the recent gameplay reveal, there's going to be tons of new stuff that you can play the game to unlock and upgrade your style and your character and all this other shit. And I'm just like, there's going to be PvP.
Listen, Adam, that sounds like an antiquated concept. Okay, let's not buy into that.
All right.
Okay?
Well, you know what?
That's too old fashioned. People have to pay for things.
Back in my day. So, but I think it's just great how they took their tech from World War Z and they said, let's use that again for the Tyranids. And they totally just ramped it up to 1,000. It's just insane. Did. So I'm really excited for Space Marine 2. I have been waiting 13 years for this. So let's go. Now, the next one I'm more interested in this one mostly because the style of the game just really grabbed me. Unlike the other games that this studio has made, this is Metaphor, a game that is being developed by Atlas, who have famously been known for the Persona series. Persona, very beloved JRPG. I know why. I can see why. For whatever reason, it just doesn't grab me. But you know what grabs me? The UI artists. They are phenomenal at what they do. Their UIs are unbelievable to look at. And there's no difference with Metaphor. The UI is what grabbed me. It is extremely unique. And it just looks phenomenal. And I'll play the game just to look at the UI. Like it's a really good looking game. But it does look like my kind of game, my kind of JRPG. So I kind of want to get into it. I guess with their Persona series, I couldn't get the whole, these are high school students and it's just I don't know. It was weird for me. I hated it, but
I don't blame you. I hear the story is actually quite compelling, but I can't get past. It's very stylized, very artistic. It reminds me a lot of a comic book, which I think is kind of what they've been going for.
That's good.
And that's cool, man. Like if that's like right up your lane, like go for it, buy into it. I'm with you, dude. It doesn't pull me. It doesn't intrigue me that way. I'm very much of the Eastern Orient style of like Ghost of Tsushima. I'm really into samurai stuff. I'm really into like I'm even really into like the Nordic type of thing. I think that's why I put so much time in Valhalla, because I like the setting, I like the look, I like the feel. In fact, Valheim is something that I've been considering getting into. Like I like that kind of stylistic, more like dark and gloomy kind of feel. And Persona is more like pow, boom, like the old style comic book kind of, and it's just not my thing, but I can respect it,
Yeah. And, you were saying about, for me, Atlas has always been Shin Megami Tensei. I played Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2, Nocturne. I'm an old school Atlas fan in that sense. I didn't play any of the Personas, but I was on the other side. I was Shin Megami Tensei.
I remember,
I never played the base Shin Megami Tensei games. But 5 just got announced, so I'm kind of like intrigued now. I'm like, maybe I should play the original Shin Megami Tensei games. But I played Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2 and Nocturne, and I absolutely love those games. So, I have some history with Atlas. I just think they do make some good JRPGs. They've pretty much stuck to the formula for so many years now. And so if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right.
Next game, I'm disappointed by. Mostly because it's only on one system, and that is Batman Arkham Shadow. First and foremost, what is it with the shadows? We've got Assassin's Creed, now we've got Batman. Like, is everybody in the dark? All right. So,
come on. Batman is technically in the dark. He's always been that way.
Just put Bruce Wayne out there. Just put Wayne Bruce out there.
Wayne Bruce don't know this.
Last name's first. But Batman Arkham Shadow, while the cinematic looked good, it didn't show any gameplay. It's only on MetaQuest 3. Yeah. Why? Why are you doing this? It's a VR title. There are more VR headsets on the market. Please, just put them on everything. Why is Meta prioritized here?
I have a theory, and if you could bear with me here. So the developers are Camouflage, and Camouflage is most notably known for their Iron Man game on the PSVR 1, which was a phenomenal game. Before that, they made Republique, which was a story, and that was a story that was kind of it was very good. It was Republique was essentially you controlling a character as a different character. So you were a person in the cameras, and you were guiding this woman named Hope in her journey to figure out essentially that you are trapped underground or under the water in a submarine, and led to believe that the world is a bad place, and that she's essentially in a cult. And she's being held captive, right? But you learn this through the story, and so like they're very good. Camouflage is very good at making games. Republique was popular and well held in high regard, and Iron Man was probably the best Iron Man flying kind of mechanics you could possibly get, dude. such a good title, and the storytelling was superb as well. So this being in the hands of Camouflage, I think, is a good choice. Now, why is it on MetaQuest 3? Well, Camouflage is still a relatively small team. And due to their success on the PSVR and Sony kind of dropping support for the PSVR 2, it only makes sense, like, let's go with the Quest. Let's go with Meta, because they did that with Republic, and Republic was popular. They're familiar with the platform. They're familiar with the service. And because of their success with Iron Man, Meta is like, let's go balls to the wall on this. We trust Camouflage to do a good job, and we also need to sell the Quest 3. Yeah. So let's use this as a staple game that, not only is Batman super popular for obvious reasons, but Camouflage is also held in high regard. So what better way to sell a unit than to have those two factors being, only on the Quest 3. It just makes sense.
I didn't realize this, but Republic originally released in 2013, but it was an episodic game. It had 5 episodes, and then it released full game on PS4 in 2016. And I didn't realize there's an anniversary edition that came out 2 years ago. So,
and I actually have a shirt from them because I helped do some debugging on the VR game. So,
is Adam your name over in there? The credits?
No. But like, it was nice that they actually appreciated some of the work and whatnot. And like, I was speaking to one of the developers over there, head developers. His name is Adam. I don't know if he's still on the team anymore, but there's also Steve, I believe.
It was me.
Yeah. But I don't know if they're still there anymore. I assume they are. But they're such a they're a company that you can trust. And yeah, I hate that it's on MetaQuest 3 as well, because I don't have one myself and I don't know when I'm going to invest in that. And I love Camouflage as a developer. And I, of course, love Batman. He's my favorite superhero. So it kind of sucks. I might actually buy a Quest 3 to play this.
Yeah.
Which sounds really stupid, but I've got to. I mean, it's Batman and it's from Camouflage.
They're forcing your hand, and that's what I don't like.
Yeah.
Like that's why I'm saddened by this.
I am a strong believer that it will go to Steam. I strongly believe if you give it time, it'll be popular enough. They'll put it on Steam and it'll grow even larger there. I strongly believe that. So could I wait? Absolutely. But if it comes in a bundle, I think that'll be easier.
By the way, just to double check, I think you know this probably more than I do. The box that they're selling for $60 to get PSVR 2 on PC, you can use the DualSense controllers, right? It just doesn't have a lot of the functionality like the HDR and
the function. Yeah, you can use the controllers, but the functionality of a lot of things that make PSVR 2 unique are not going with it. And right. I think the primary reason for that is because a lot of the games are not developed to accommodate those. So like adaptive triggers, the haptic feedback, like the eye tracking and foveated rendering, like not all the games are designed for that. So rather than creating technology to allow the PC VR games to accommodate that, they force you to pay $60 for a stupid fucking box, which it just feels like we're going back to PSVR 1 days, but whatever. So you got to pay $60 for a box that can't handle that kind of information processing from the unit, from the head unit to the PC. I truly think that's what it is. They went the cheapest route. They're selling it at way over market value.
Yeah,
and they're just going to rip people off. I think,
and that's what's terrible is that it's already got a USB-C connection on it. They could have just made it USB-C compatible and updated some software or something. Like they could have just
someone's going to do that.
Yeah, they just add drivers and plug it into a C port. That's all it should take. Why did someone go to this length?
Because they want more money. They're trying to make money. I can guarantee you they're trying to make money back for something that they didn't support and they didn't market. They failed the PSVR 2 like they failed the PSP and the PS Vita and every other side project that they have had.
Yeah.
They had a very good lineup with a lot of potential. Like if you actually look at the PSVR 2, and not to go too far off on a tangent, but if you look at the library, launch library for PSVR 2, yes, there were a lot of ports, but there were also, like, look at Capcom.
Yeah.
They have made some of their titles, some of the best titles on PSVR 2, they have made them VR compatible. You had a good lineup. In fact, you still have games like Behemoth coming out. Mm-hmm. You have Blade and Sorcery, I think, that was supposed to be coming to PSVR 2 as well. You got a couple other titles coming. Like the game, the unit could have been successful had they marketed it appropriately.
Yep.
Had they actually allowed for open or for community-based testing. That's the reason why First Contact Entertainment failed at Firewall Ultra, because they weren't allowed to do public beta testing. It all had to be internal, so they couldn't get feedback from the players.
That's dumb.
And right, so like they just didn't support the developers enough to make it worthwhile. In fact, one of the biggest VR titles, and it's also a flat screen title, Rec Room. I don't know if you've heard of this,
but nope, I don't think so.
So Rec Room is like a big social platform. It's usually composed of a lot of kids, so you'll never find me on it. But it's a very popular game, kind of like Roblox in VR almost, and the developers of Rec Room said, no, it's not worth the money and effort to put it on PSVR 2. And this was before the announcement that Sony is no longer going to be supporting PSVR 2 to that degree.
Yeah.
This was like years before. So it's like the writing was on the wall, and this is where we're at with PSVR 2. But Batman Arkham Shadow does look awesome. The cinematics look great. If you look at Iron Man as kind of like a benchmark for what camouflage can do, even on PSVR 1, Iron Man looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
So trust him.
Yeah. And I think I have Iron Man. I might have gotten it for free through PlayStation Plus, but I'll have to check. So I can't wait to try that out. Next game on the list, Tears of Metal. This one kind of just like had a small spotlight, and that was about it. But this one seemed good. it made enough of an impact where the art style is unreal. It looks so good, and I wrote looks like a straight up game in an interesting setting. That's it. It just looks like a game.
Scottish roguelike.
Yeah, it looks really fun. So needless to say, but the art style again, the art really drew me in with that one. Next one is no surprise. I've covered it a few times. Delta Force Hawk Ops. I mean, it's been 15 years since the last Delta Force game. So they have really been in a lull. What really, the reason I put this on this list as something to talk about is just simply the fact that they announced a Black Hawk Down remake built into the game. What the hell, dude? That's awesome. That's the one I played. That's the one most people played. And I'm super excited for that. I'm really excited for the new campaign and stuff and to try the multiplayer. But so far, the game is just looking like a ton of fun. I hope it goes well because it is a free-to-play game. But it has a campaign. They're redoing Black Hawk Down. I'm here for it. So,
My feelings on that, and as everybody knows, I keep reiterating, I'm not big into FPS, but I do watch them a lot, so I appreciate them. But there is this big trend right now in the FPS genre towards more realistic type of military sim type of gameplay. We're kind of moving away from the arcadey stuff.
Right.
What's that new Arena one? I've been watching Shroud play it a lot. It seems very popular. It's almost like a Tarkov game, but it's a little bit more.
Gray Zone?
Yes, Gray Zone. There's Gray Zone, and then there's another one that is a lot like Arma.
Warfare. Gray Zone Warfare.
And what's that other one that's like Arma, but it's more modern? I'm kind of blanking on the name, but there's another military sim type thing.
Well, where it's like there's tons of them. There's Squad.
It's a massive open world, and you have your own troop, and then you can either get in a helicopter or a jeep, and you literally have to drive to these camps, and it will take you like 5 to 10 minutes to actually get there. Like it's really impressive what they've been able to do. But I'm starting to see this trend towards more military sim, realistic, like a low TTK kind of gameplay, and I'm down for it. I like the intensity. I like the adrenaline that you get from that. What was that one where you kind of acted like a SWAT team? and you had to like break into homes and stuff. It's brand new, relatively.
The new one, it's crap.
I'm not thinking of Body Cam or anything like that.
No.
It was the other one.
Ready or Not. There you go.
Ready or Not. Yeah.
That one looks very good.
I love watching that game because it is really slow paced. It builds up the adrenaline and whatever. Like, I love that kind of feeling.
I love watching Jack screw up in that game. That stuff is so hilarious.
It's so great. So like I love this direction that FPS is going, and Delta Force I feel is like it is falling into that trend.
Right.
And not that they fell into it. I know that these games, their games have always been like this, but there's been this resurgence of it rather than this Call of Duty arcadey multiplayer thing. Some of the FPS games seem to be getting a little bit more serious, and I'm all for it.
You know what's really funny too is that it's guess who it's being developed by? A Chinese company. So somehow a Chinese company, a developer, is able to revive an American IP. I don't know how that happened, but there you go. I think it was an American.
They make everything else for us.
Yeah, right. But I think if I'm not mistaken, it was Nova Logic was the original developers of the franchise, and this Timmy Studio Group and Team Jade, they picked it up for this new entry. And you know what? They're doing a good job as far as I can tell. We have yet to touch it ourselves, but I'm really excited. And I'm more excited for the campaign. I want to see what they do with it, and maybe they can teach Call of Duty a thing or two about how to do a proper campaign.
Yeah, seriously.
Next game that I'm a huge fan of because I'm a nerd for this stuff, Mecha Break.
No surprise there.
Yeah, I've been a huge mech fan since the early days of OG Xbox. Mech Assault, for anybody who remembers that game, and Microsoft, if you're listening, please. Mech Assault?
Yeah. For my brother's sake, please.
Yeah. Mech Assault 2 Lone Wolf was my jam. That was the first game I actually played where it had a legitimate conquest mode. Think of Helldivers 2. That's what they did back in the early 2000s with Lone Wolf. You had planets that you fought over against other factions, people factions. This wasn't like AI factions. This was like you joined a faction and you took over the planets around the universe or the galaxy.
I remember that.
And that got me hooked so much. But this is obviously this game is far more fast paced than that game. And I love the look of it. It's just frenetic. It's mechs, and I still have to get Armor Core 6. 6? Yes, 6.
Yep.
So,
well, in watching this sneak peek into Mecha Break, before I actually saw the title of the game, my immediate thought was Zone of the Enders.
Oh yeah,
I had huge Zone of the Enders feels, and when we had that game when we were younger, I played that for hours. Like if you could actually tally up the number of hours I played in that game, it probably would have been well over 60 to 70 hours. I put a lot of time into that game. I loved it. And I remember competing against Robin because you could do the player versus player.
We played the shit out of that game.
Oh my God, it was so fun. And every time we were one-upping each other, it was a blast.
I think it was specifically the second game that we all really kind of went into.
I mean, it was just so fast. And that's what everybody's saying about
Mecha Break.
No. The Armor Core 6.
Oh, yeah.
The speed, the visuals, the way it plays, the way it feels.
Right.
Like that's what I had with Zone of the Enders. And Mecha Break it kind of just hits that mark for me. I actually might get into this because when I saw this, I was glued to the screen. And I literally said, "Is this Zone of the Enders? Is it coming back?" Because I haven't seen that game in forever. But you know what? I'm willing to jump into a new mech game, especially if it gives me that feel.
It might. I don't know if we'll ever see Zone of the Enders. That was another Kojima game. For those of you who don't know, he's obviously of Metal Gear fame, and that's pretty much what he's mostly known for. But Zone of the Enders was one of his earlier projects, and those of us who are old enough remember it very fondly. I don't know if this game was announced to be a free-to-play. It didn't say. I'm not seeing anything. If it's not, good. It does say buy Mecha Break on Xbox.com, so no, it's not free to play, which is good. Don't be free to play.
I did find it funny though that before memes were a meme, I remember the meme of Zone of the Enders. The cockpit was literally the cock of the mech. You remember that?
Yeah.
Where it was literally sitting between the legs. I always thought that was absolutely hilarious. But yeah, Mecha Break looks great.
Yeah, that one looks fantastic. Another one in the list, Deer and Boy. Another one of those games that really grabbed me, just like Neva did. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of dialogue, if any at all. It's just a beautiful art style and a game that's told through emotions, which I love. I can't say enough about games that do that. You are a masterful storyteller if you can just tell the story through emotions. It's so hard to do, and some of these games are just hitting the right points, and I hope this one does very well, because these little titles really need to be, well, they need to be the front and center that Matt Booty seems to want for Xbox, but he just closed down Tango Gameworks, who did that with fucking Hi-Fi Rush, you dumb fuck.
So let me preface my note, a singular note on Deer and Boy, with this. Here, I'm prefacing it with this. I'm glad you are excited for this because I found this forgettable.
Oof.
There is nothing like where Neva was a little bit intriguing to me, just because I know the developers of Greece worked on it, and I know that they, that title was held in high esteem.
They have a pedigree. Yep.
Yeah, there's a level of trust you can have there with the developers and give it a shot. The concept of Deer and Boy just fell flat for me. Like I vaguely remember it was very dense colors. They weren't vibrant, but they were like very dense, as opposed to Neva, which was like I said, more of a watercolor pastel kind of thing. Whereas Deer and Boy was very like dense colors, and it just seemed very cartoony and more of like a kiddish kind of game to me.
Right.
Just at first glance, nothing about it said interesting to me. And I don't really care about deer, their food, and I don't really care about a boy and his relationship with the deer. I just nothing really intrigued me. So if you play it, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
So that I can see what it's about. So I'm glad that you're interested.
Oh yeah.
I hope it's good for those who are interested in it. But for me, only note, forgettable.
If you're a subscriber to my channel, you know that this channel, ever since going from Gamers Platform to Full Spectrum Studios, we've shifted the needle in the direction of telling more stories that people normally wouldn't experience on their own or want to experience. This will be one. That's my job. And is to tell you guys stories that maybe you never would have, like Resistance, the Resistance franchise. How many people have played that? Not many, not anymore. Back in the day, it was super popular. Now it's just like modern, modern kids, and they wouldn't know what Resistance is. So I'm happy to tell these stories because I have the material. Deer and Boy just looks like another great indie title that I'm really excited to experience the story on. Next one is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I mean, I did a video on this, and this game just looks unbelievable. I'm ashamed to say I didn't play the first one. I think I'm going to now. But I like the direction that they're actually they're setting for this one, because it's more lighthearted, even though it's very, desolate time. It's still they have a lot of jokes in the trailers, and it's very funny. It's very engaging. So I can't wait to see what these characters go through, because it seems as though they took a more lighthearted approach to the second one as opposed to the first one, which was very, down in the dumps, which again, I have yet to play. I'll probably play it just so I can have the setup for the second game.
My only thought on Kingdom Come was I don't know anything about the series, but it looks good.
Yeah. I mean, CryEngine still is my favorite engine of all the engines. Like Unreal Engine is nice. Unity can look nice, but CryEngine does things that no other engine can do.
Wasn't Crysis built off of CryEngine?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Crytek built CryEngine to build Crysis.
Yeah.
They cried a lot.
A lot of crying.
A lot of crying. Next one was so odd. Slitterhead.
Okay, I'm glad that you actually, because there was some that we skipped over in this list. And I'm like, I got to go back. I was hoping you weren't going to skip this one.
No, I'm not skipping this one.
This one was interesting. If I could kind of give my thoughts on this one.
Go ahead.
First. So, the only negative I really saw was that the combat looks really stiff.
Oh, yeah.
I think it needs to be a little bit more fluid.
That was
the
early
concept
gameplay.
the concept seems really cool. I don't even know if I'm fully interpreting this correctly, but I had to go back and kind of put it into slow motion and at times to kind of figure out what's going on. But the idea is that you seem to be this infectious entity that takes control of other people, or takes control of people, not other people, but people, to fight off demons who are also infecting people. So you're essentially this entity fighting off evil entity, and your sole job as entities is to control humans. We essentially become tools in this war. And I don't know why, but the first thing that came to mind was Bleach, because why? Simply because you had these warriors. If you know the story of Bleach, you have these ghost type warriors who fight off demons in the real world, and it's part of their job.
Yeah, that Shinigami.
I don't specifically remember. It's been so long since I've watched Bleach. But you could essentially the way the main character was bestowed his power was he was stabbed by one of these warriors, and he was given the powers to then fight. And that why I made that connection, I don't know, but the fact that I made that connection in my head really intrigued me, that you are this weird alien-like entity that infects humans to fight, and once that human being dies, you can jump to another human and continue. It seems quirky and stupid, but I love the concept, and I actually want to try it.
Yeah, my notes, obviously, it's being developed by Keiichiro Toyama, who is the creator of Silent Hill, Siren, and Gravity Rush. I didn't play Silent Hill, though. I mean, the new one,
you played the demo.
The Silent Hill 2 remake, yes. But I didn't play any demo. It was a video, but I did a trailer reaction. But I was kind of a wuss back in the day, so I didn't really play any horror games. So Silent Hill, scratch that. Siren, scratch that. But I absolutely adored Gravity Rush. That was such a fantastic game. My other two notes on this were looks weird and completely unlike anything we've seen before, which I think that's obvious if you've watched the trailer. And the last note I said, trailer makes no sense. So
it really did.
I don't know what we were looking at, but I'm here for it. So Toriyama, just keep doing it. Do whatever you got to do, man. You're a weird guy. You're a weird man. Yeah. What nightmares did you have? Next one was very. It seems as though climbing games are starting to become a thing. You know, we had recently Jusant, and now we've got a game called Cairn coming out. It's a climbing game. Visuals are very nice. It's a survival climbing game. And it's from the developers of Fury and Haven. Haven is one that I actually got for free on PlayStation Plus, and I always meant to play. That one looks really good. This is their next title, and it looks like, remember Quap? I don't know if you
remember that at all.
It was a weird thing where it was like a running game, and you only had 4 keys on the keyboard to push. Quap. QWOP. And based on which one you pushed would move a certain limb on the leg. So you had to try and run this as far as you could in the right sequence of keys.
That game was so stupid.
It was so stupid, but it was so addictive because you wanted to see how far you could get.
You know what that reminds me of? Like it's like the early version of Getting Over It.
Yes, it's that. And then there's that one weird game that was recently shown off where it's some dude in his underwear and he's trying to climb up like a mud hill and stuff like that. And his legs are kind of like, they're just like that. You have to control his legs and his whole body is basically a rag doll.
That's a newer one. That became very popular for a brief time.
I can't remember what that one was called, but that's basically what Cairn is, except not as floppy. But it does look like you have to be very precise with your hand and leg placement. So it's going to have similar feeling to Jusant, but a lot more in-depth game mechanics. So very interesting. I don't know if I'll play it, but it looks interesting to me. Wander Stop is the next one, and this one, it's a management game. It's a tea shop management game, but the twist is the main character is an ex-fighter, like boxer or something like that, and every day she's just thinking about going back to being a fighter while trying to live a normal life as a tea shop owner. So, I mean, I even wrote in, I like management games. I think they can be very fun. This one looks just as fun. It's you go out, I think you grow tea leaves and stuff like that. You do all the stuff, but there's something deeper with the main character, and that's what intrigues me about it. And I'm really interested to see where that goes.
I'm right along with you on that. When I first at the start of the trailer or the video, I was like, oh, this looks stupid.
Yeah.
Like I don't care for those simulators. Just like I didn't really care for Cairn. It's a climbing simulator. Like I don't really care for that too much unless it's in VR. That could be an intriguing concept, but I don't really spend a lot of time with those things. But what did captivate me was the story. Because at the end of the video, it suggests that there's something deeper here. And these are very contrasting occupations from something that happened in her past that was, you say fighting. Was it fighting? Was she a fighter? Or was there this traumatic event that she experienced that she had to survive through versus being in this calm, serene environment where you're a simple tea shop worker? Well, they're very contrasting experiences.
Yeah, I think they did confirm she was like a boxer fighter, maybe MMA fighter, some type of combat fighter. And
but she seems conflicted.
Right. And that's where I want to see how that goes.
And why is she conflicted? I mean, she obviously loved whatever she was doing before. She was invested in it to some degree to be in it for a period of time. And then she goes, and now she's in this tea shop, and she's like, no, this is kind of like where I belong. This is
and
where
that's
I need
the thing.
to be.
Why did she start the tea shop in the first place?
And is she afraid that someone's going to come after her? Like, why is she having these memories? What triggered that's immediately what ran through my mind. And the funny thing is, Adam, is that this whole fighting aspect of the story didn't come till the end of the video.
Right. I think they're stringing us along there. That was purposefully done. And
very good marketing.
I swear to God, if they release it and nothing comes of that, I'm going to be very pissed.
Me too.
So the next one, it looks a little bit, this one kind of looks like a standard by the numbers sort of action adventure game, but it still looks good. It's published by Bandai Namco. These guys rarely miss. They have some misses in the past, but Bandai Namco is they're kind of like Capcom. They just keep putting out awesome games lately. Mm-hmm. This one doesn't feel any different, but a lot of people are saying, well, it was worked on by Sweet Baby Inc. or whoever the heck it was, female lead. As soon as there's a female lead, everybody immediately thinks Sweet Baby Inc. But I think this one was confirmed that they were involved, or a consulting company was involved. But the main character is Anya Chalotra. I hope I said that right. Please forgive me. I love you. It's Yennefer from The Witcher show. Gorgeous woman. And a phenomenal actress. So she's the lead character. The visuals look good. I think it's Unreal Engine. Combat looks...
What game?
It's called... Oh, sorry. It's Unknown 9 Awakening.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And all of a sudden, it's Awakening. Everything's Awakening. We've got Dune Awakening. We've got Unknown 9 Awakening, just like everything's in Shadows. I mean, can we just have Shadows Awakening? Can we just do that?
Tenchu, Shadows Awakening.
Yeah, this is ridiculous, man. There you go. Tenchu, bring it back. Shadows Awakening. All right. Perfect. You can have that one gratis. So the combat looks quick. And the last note I had has look and feel of Assassin's Creed. So, but that's not going to keep me from being interested in playing it. I think Bandai Namco does good work. This one looks interesting enough. I don't know what the story really is, but all I know is that I love Anya Chalotra. She's so hot.
The premise of this game. So I think it's so in my notes I wrote it's based on Indian culture, not Native American, but like Indian.
Yeah, no, Indian. Yeah,
right. And there's a mechanic in this game called stepping. Essentially, it's body transference.
Okay.
And the lore is based on the 9 from which all humans came. So I'm wondering if that's a cultural feature or a cultural thing that they're going to be telling the story of, which is where this stepping comes from. But I'm intrigued. I thought it looked good. I thought it was an interesting concept.
Actually, yeah, but Anya is... No, she's an English actress. But she must have Indian descent. She's definitely Indian in some respect, I think. So it makes sense that she's there. It says she's an English actress. So she's born British Indian. There you go. Yeah. So she's a Brit, but she's Indian in ancestry. So perfect choice, in my opinion. I mean, again, she's gorgeous, but also can play the part if that's what it's based in. I didn't know the particulars about this one. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I'm good with that. So, and I was right. It's Unreal Engine 5.
And I was gonna say, like in looking back at the trailer, the lighting looks good. I mean, you're not gonna see super realistic textures here in all regards. Like the characters, something with being able to, unless you use this superhuman like system or whatever, you're not going to get hyper realistic people. But the stylistic nature of this game is cool. Like I'm just watching this scene right here, right now, where she was being held, her arms behind her back, and she does this body transference into the guard in front of her, takes control of him, smacks him, and then she goes back into her body. And apparently this mechanic's called stepping in the game. And I'm wondering if this is related to like the mystical 9 that was referred to. But yeah, man, it seems really cool.
I wonder if it has
I'm all about that.
I wonder if it has any basis in Indian mythology specifically.
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like it might, but we'll have to see. The next one, of course, I did a video on this one, Anatria, the Last Song. It's a Souls-like game. It's based on Italian mythology, so that ought to be interesting. The fact that we've got Chinese games coming out, we now have Italian mythology in the mix. These are mythologies we know nothing about. So this is going to be interesting. I sucked at that demo, but
I loved watching it, bro. I loved seeing your struggle.
It was that one guy. He wasn't even a boss. But Anatria, the Last Song, it looks very good. It has some minor visual hiccups that I think can be cleaned up, I hope. But the demo's out now if you guys want to try it out. I think it's coming out on all systems, bar the Switch, I guess. But give it a try. If you like Souls-like games, there you go. There's one based in Italian mythology.
In looking at this, I agree with you. I think the new theme here around Italian mythology is awesome. It's a breath of fresh air because we kind of get, I don't want to say copy pasted kind of games, but we see a lot of similarities across the Souls-like genre. And I like having something that is a little bit grounded in a sense, in a culture that we as Western civilization are less familiar with. Like I don't know much about the Italian,
I don't know anything about culture. Italian mythology. I didn't know they had mythology.
I think that would be really cool to explore. But what's also unique is that based on the gameplay that we have seen, it seems like this is a more I want to say this better. This is a brighter Souls game. Like it's lighter in terms
the color
of its
palette
ambiance.
is brighter, yes.
And I think that's just because the Italian culture, I mean, if you think about the Renaissance and stuff, it's very bright, colorful, whatever. It's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that it stems from that premise.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks, I mean, it's a Souls-like game and it looks good. It reminds me of like, I don't want to say it reminds me of Lies of P, but it's got that kind of flavor in a sense.
Is the same feeling I had. It's just it's an indie attempt at a Souls-like, and they're doing it quite well. So
yeah,
keep going, Inatria, you guys. I know it's not the name of the developer, but whoever's developing it, keep going. The next one that I got on my list is not a game, but I'm very much here for this. The developers of Among Us are actually starting up a publishing company. It's called Outer Sloth. And I wanted to give big props to that. First and foremost, Victoria Tran. How you doing? But this idea of they used the money that they got from Among Us. And back in the day, people thought, are they going to, use that to make an Among Us 2? And they said, we were, but now we're actually going to put that money back into Among Us, and Among Us 2 has been canceled. We're just going to focus on this one game. Little did we know they were also taking that money and putting it into creating a publishing company for more indie devs to be successful. So I think that's fantastic. I just wanted to bring that up and bring light to this whole thing. Indie devs showing the bigger publishers how it's done.
Support each other and you grow as a group.
I hope that Outer Sloth just kills it and they become the next Activision, but not as greedy.
But speaking of that, they also are coming out like they're capitalizing on the Among Us IP and creating a TV show out of it.
Oh yeah, there's the whole TV show, right? I might not watch it. I don't know, but cartoons for kids, maybe. I don't know. You kill people in Among Us, so maybe that wouldn't be a kids show. But
there might be some, adult humor in there somewhere.
There might be, yeah, probably. But anyway, but the next game in the list that actually is a game is Dune Awakening. We've seen footage on this before. This, I think, was more of a cinematic, but we got a little bit more information on this game. The gameplay trailer that I saw a while ago, I think I did a video on it as well, looks so good. And I'm very much here for that one. It's a survival game, but you can build a base, and the bases can look different depending on the parts that you put in together. It just looks so good. I love the new Dune movies, so I'm kind of in this universe at this point. This universe has been coined the original Star Wars. Star Wars essentially stole this idea from Dune. They got its idea from Dune. Not stole, but it
influenced.
It was a huge influence on Star Wars. And now that Star Wars is gay, I'm going to go back to see Dune. I think Dune is a far more interesting concept. So Dune Awakening is a new survival game in the Dune universe. The last note I wrote on is twist on the main story of Dune, alternate universe take. It's basically a what if. So what if, what's his name? Peter Atreides?
I don't know anything about the Dune universe.
It's basically what if he... what the heck was it? Or what if his father survived or something like that? I don't know. It's basically an opposite of what happened in the movies. It's like, what if this didn't happen? What if it went this way? So I think that's a really interesting take on the Dune story. This is being developed, I believe, by the guys who made Conan Exiles. So they already know what they're doing with survival games. I didn't play Conan Exiles. I kind of wish I did because people seem to like it, but there's too many games, so I didn't bother. This one definitely looks good.
Having played Conan Exiles, I could say it was a good game. Very tough game. You want to talk about a real survival sandbox game, Conan Exiles is it. But not knowing anything about the Dune universe, the game is intriguing to a degree. I think what's most unique about it is based on what I've heard and read, where you can take camp. You can build your camp wherever, right. But you have to be very careful because of the treacherous creatures that are out there, like the big sandworms and all this. Like you're always in danger. Yeah. You're never like settled. So you might not if you try to find a place to have a base, like you could be attacked underground, you could be attacked above ground, you could be attacked wherever. So you have to be very careful where you decide to reside.
Paul Atreides, sorry, not Peter Atreides. Paul Atreides is the main character.
Hey, you got the PA right?
Yeah,
the initials, right?
Yeah. Anyway,
so I'm curious to see how this plays out. Not being familiar with the Dune series, I mean, it seems to be very popular. I don't know. I might invest some of my time to kind of learn about the lore. But if it's coming from the developers of Conan Exiles, I got good feelings about it because Conan was great, in my opinion. And if this game is anything like that, as long as the movement is better. I didn't like the movement in Conan. It was
well, I mean, based on the gameplay we have seen visually, it looks a humongous step up from Conan.
Yeah, but, I mean, Conan was also a very old game. Like, I'll be honest, it was a very old game that was constantly updated.
Well, it looks like they learned a thing.
I'm excited
or two.
for this.
Yeah,
I'm excited for this.
Next one kind of came out of left field. I'm not gonna lie. There's a weird resurgence of the RTS genre happening with a few games. Battle Aces is the next one we're going to talk about here because it is an RTS game made for PC and console. Okay, and console. The last console RTS game that I remember playing was Battle for Middle-earth 2, which is on the Xbox 360. And you, good luck getting that. And what I thought was interesting was I think it was the CEO of the company or one of the main developers, maybe studio head, came out and when he was talking about it, he says it's a game, an RTS game that's made for people who love the macro gameplay, but it streamlines the micro, so it's easier for those of us who like to just have the battles.
So like things are automated, right?
Yeah, like a lot of stuff, I think he said was
like
automated.
Resource collectors.
Right. Yeah, I think he said a lot of that stuff will be automated because the micro gameplay is really what gets people turned off to RTSs because of the fact that it is so integral to like something like StarCraft. You have to manage your resources as much as possible. But a lot of us, like myself and like you, we played StarCraft 1 with Ryan back in the day, and we designated each of our bases as a something. Like somebody would collect resources and provide it to the rest of the group. Somebody would build the defenses and somebody would build the army. That's how we played those games. So that way there wasn't just one of us trying to figure out all of it. We enjoyed the macro gameplay. We didn't know what it was called back in those days, but we all enjoyed the fight, the battles. The micro gameplay was never any of our strong suits. It was very difficult, and it's a very difficult thing to get into if you don't get into it as like a 12-year-old. So this game apparently streamlines all of that and just allows you to enjoy the macro gameplay of an RTS, and that is just the big battles that you can have. And I'm really excited the fact that it's even coming out on console. So we'll see how they do with making that work on a controller.
Now, you say there's a resurgence of RTS, or it seems to be some sort of resurgence of RTS, which I'm not totally against. But I think going this route with Battle Aces, making the micro level actions automated, is a very smart move.
Yes.
Because you have TikTok brain people in the gaming field now. Gamers being as young as they are nowadays, they need that quick fix, need to focus on one thing for a short period of time and then move on. Well, if you automate a lot of the things that are nuanced, which a lot of hardcore RTS players actually enjoy, like, Titch, he was actually a huge StarCraft fan, very good at it as well. He loves those little things. He loves being able to do the resource management, build up stuff, and just demolish people. He and a group of people used to actually troll other people in StarCraft for the sake of simply trolling. I mean, he's done it his entire life. But I think if you're going to kind of reestablish RTS as a fun genre, this is a good take on it. And best of luck to them. It's anime stylized.
Yep.
Which is very appealing to a lot of people. Good concept.
A lot of weebs
Hopefully it works
out. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing with me is StarCraft. I was always interested in the campaign more than the multiplayer. And I don't know if this one will have a campaign, but if it at least makes RTS and you say kids with TikTok, the TikTok brain these days, well, also for us old fogies who have no brain. So it really
in less time,
time to do all the learning. We were never really good at it back then, and we're not very good at it now. So this kind of really takes the worst of the RTS genre and makes it easier for those of us to actually just play the game. So that's
Listen,
good.
I kind of hurt myself back in the days. Okay, I was always running as Protoss, and they were always the most expensive, so that was good.
Yeah, and Terran wasn't really that much cheaper, but they were harder to say the least. I would say Protoss were obviously the hardest to play, but Terran was runner-up on that one.
Those Dark Archons, man, you had to get them. Though.
Yeah, and the Terrans just, I don't know. I sucked at them. Anyway, so the next game that it's another... This is Capcom coming out swinging again, man. They take whatever genre they want and they make it look so good. This is Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess. It's from what I saw, it's a hack and slash game. So it's already right up my alley. I'm huge into Diablo 3.
Yes.
Hack and though that was isometric. This one is just not over the shoulder, but it's third person hack and slash. Just slice everything you see up on the screen, and it's wild. The Japanese are so inventive with their monster designs. I just don't know where they keep coming up with these weird, grotesque looking things, but they're always so interesting. And this one looks just as interesting as anything else prior to it. Capcom is just knocking it out of the park, and this one looks like another great game, in my opinion. Like, it's very colorful, by the way. The colors in this game look unbelievable.
Yeah, it has this dark undertone, but it's got very vibrant colors where they need to be. What I find interesting is this presents initially as like a 2.5D kind of game. Like when you watch the video straight out the gate, the main character is running across. It looks like a side scroller, but then in the next shot, it seems to just like really open up. I kind of forgot about this game because you see a lot of the combat, which is great. That's kind of what you want to showcase, the best aspects of the game. But I don't really know anything about it. I want to know, like, what are there deeper mechanics? Can you customize your character? What's the basic story here that they're trying to tell? There's really not a lot of information as to what this game is about, other than the exciting gameplay.
Right.
And now, if you have a good gameplay loop, I think that's important. In fact, that's the most important thing. Is the gameplay good? If the gameplay is good, people will play it. But for me, I'm always also looking for what else is there, because I can have a game that's super fun, that has a good gameplay loop, but if there's nothing beyond that, I'm going to get bored real quick.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know, like there's even this part, like if you actually watch the Summer Game Fest, you go, I think it's an hour and 30 minutes in, hour 30 minutes, 28 seconds, give or take. There's this, I don't know if it's a move or if this is like, it almost like looks like a tactics kind of thing where you move the character to a certain area. I don't know if that's a move in the game, if they were controlling an ally, like, are they telling an ally to go here? Like, what is that? None of that's really spelled out. So I'm going to keep an eye on this game, but right now it's like, yeah, it looks nice, but I'm not really sure about it.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to not trust Capcom these days. I mean, okay, granted, they kind of screwed up with Street Fighter back in the day, charging ridiculous amounts of money for DLC stuff and whatnot, and locking people out of content that was already on the disc. And they have a lot of things in the past, but it was specifically for some reason with Street Fighter. Everything else seems to have gone pretty smoothly for them. Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, all their other properties seem to just kind of smack, and this one honestly just looks crazy weird, but it looks good to me, so I'm really excited for Capcom.
As long as they don't monetize this like they did with some of the other IPs that they did, and they did the whole gambling thing. You remember those, the slot machines? And as long as they don't go that route.
So far, they've been pretty good, so I think we'll be okay, but we'll have to see. Next one is another one from a developer of a franchise, Hyperlight Breaker. This is from the developers who made Hyperlight Drifter and Solar Ash. Hyperlight Drifter being a isometric pixel art style or sprite-based game. And very fast-paced combat. It's one of those bullet hell type games, but you're also like super fast. So, and then Solar Ash was their first foray into 3D with this type of idea. Now, Hyperlight Breaker, I think, is actually the direct sequel to Drifter. Solar Ash is just the game that they made in between, I think. Very colorful looking game, and it's in 3D again, and it looks phenomenal. I mean, I didn't play Drifter. I haven't played Solar Ash, but that doesn't mean I'm not interested in playing those. Guys, I'm trying to save money, okay? Give me a break. But Hyperlight Breaker looks really good.
The nice thing is that they state right off of the bat that it's full campaign co-op, which is exciting.
That's really good. Yep.
The combat looks kind of basic, but I'm assuming some of this is like early in the game kind of gameplay. I'm curious to see how the co-op kind of like plays a factor into the story. Are there certain dungeons or trials or puzzles that need to be solved with multiple people, or is it easier being solved with multiple people?
Right.
Are there going to be very challenging bosses? This kind of gives me why am I blanking on the most popular mobile game right now? Not Honkai Star Rail, the other one.
Oh, Genshin Impact.
Genshin, thank you. It kind of gives me like a Breath of the Wild Genshin Impact kind of feel. Because there are aspects that remind me of Breath of the Wild, and then there are aspects that remind me of Genshin Impact. But I agree, the color palette's really nice. You have diverse environments that are unique from each other. The character models look uniquely different. I am curious to know the story bits because looking at the different environments, like what's the main goal here? But it looks compelling. I mean, there's a lot of activity going on. I'm a little concerned about the screen clutter, though, with a lot of the animations. I know that was a big issue in Final Fantasy 14 for some people, but you can turn those off, right? Like, didn't you turn those off?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Not only to improve performance, but also my eyesight.
Yeah, that's a big one. And there's also complaints to a game that is yet to release, but there's a lot of controversy over the new Dragon Age game coming out.
Yeah,
there's some a lot of visual clutter. It doesn't look overwhelming to me, and it probably doesn't look overwhelming to you or anyone else who is used to this type of game. But to someone who's new to this type of game, I'm wondering, is this too much visual clutter, or is this just enough? I don't know. Just something to keep in mind, I guess.
Well, again, the Hyperlight series, as I mentioned with Drifter, I don't know exactly the category that they put it under, but I think it's technically a bullet hell type game. Kind of like something like Returnal. You just got a lot of crap coming at you. So I think they're just trying to continue that here with just big sweeping cinematic type fights. I think at one point you were running along the back of a giant snake-like thing or whatever. I don't remember, but it just I'm here for this because it looks. I keep saying that throughout this entire thing, but I am these games look so good. So
yeah, they're definitely up your alley. I hope that there's an option to distance the camera. Because I don't mind over the shoulder, but if you can adjust the camera so that maybe some of this visual noise isn't as problematic, I think that would be a perfect accommodation.
So you can see stuff.
Yeah.
This next one might be a surprise to some of you because I'm not particularly a fan of the community, but Valorant is coming to console. And I did play this on PC. I'm not very good at CSGO type games. I have some clips that I'm quite proud of. I got an ace in one match, or actually I think I got an ace twice, not in the same match, but I've had two times that I had an ace. So I've had good moments on Valorant, but keyboard and mouse, not my strong suit anymore. But I was pleasantly surprised, I guess. It got a lot more attention than it should have, to be honest. I don't know why they went so long on the advertisement of Valorant on console, but they announced
like
the console.
6 minutes long.
Yeah, they announced the console edition, and then they just went into like a montage of tournament stuff. And I'm like, what does this have to do with the announcement? It's just Riot Games and the way they market their stuff. But as I said, I haven't played Valorant in a long time because I'm not good at it. And secondly, it's just like CSGO. If you're not in it from the beginning, you fall behind very quick. And the third point is the Riot Games community is the most toxic community on the planet. Every one of them can go fuck themselves. And I'm not really interested in even like remotely dealing with those people. But
yeah,
I did say if this game came to console, I'd play it. It's a free to play game. I don't think I have to install their kernel level. I mean, this is on a console. It's a closed source system. So I don't think I'll have to have the same issues that you PC players have to have where you have to install the kernel level anti-cheat. I'm not worried about stuff like that personally. I did it willingly because I'm like, I have nothing to hide. And it's a good way to keep people at bay who cheat. Fuck you, cheaters.
But so prevalent nowadays.
Yeah, which it's running rampant. But that's the reason why I don't play on PC for most of the time anymore. It's cheaters. But I am surprised it took them this long to get it out to console. I think it would have been a huge boon for them if they released it when, say, the PS5 and Series consoles actually came out. They'd be like, hey, guess what? Valorant's coming to console. And it would have been a huge thing. But they're big on their own. So now my biggest concern, and this is something that CSGO did not have back on the PS3. Yes, CSGO was on PS3. Aim assist was not a thing. And when you are playing on controller, you have to have aim assist. I don't care who you are. If you're a good player without aim assist, great. I'm happy for you. But there are no gyro functions. Unlike on PC, there are no gyro functions on the PS5 for most shooters, if any of them at all. It does not exist. So playing without aim assist is a no-go for me. And that's why I didn't play PUBG on console, because there's no aim assist. It's very, very hard to play without aim assist, especially on a game that is very rigid like PUBG was. So I'm hoping that with Valorant, they have implemented some sort of aim assist into the game to nothing too strong, just something that helps you ease your reticle into position. You still do all the control. Like Destiny 2 has some of the best aim assist I've ever used. It is so perfectly tuned to where it's not too strong, but it's not too soft. It gets you right to where you need to be. So I hope that they've fine-tuned the aim assist, and I'll be giving it a shot when it comes out. You know, it's a free-to-play game, so I'll probably make a video on that. But Valorant on console, never thought I'd see the day.
I'm not really into Riot either. I don't really care for their games, but I can respect what they do for the gaming industry. And Valorant, being an avid esports fan, I can appreciate also what they're doing. I think that's part of the reason why they advertise it, because it is becoming I want to say it's a very popular esport, but it's still not nearly as popular as CSGO. It's still not nearly as popular as League of Legends. It still has a way to go, but it's up and coming, and it's not slowing down at all. Like Valorant is full steam ahead, and they are really diving into it from the lore perspective, from the gameplay perspective, new characters, new maps, changes to some of the maps. Fuck toxic communities. They just exist, and you make the game worse. You make the experience worse. No one likes you.
Yep.
And hearing that probably makes you happy. So, I hope you trip and break your nose or something. But I can respect what the developers have done, and I can respect that the CEO of Riot, she has come out and she has spoken publicly about the cheating, about some of the other things. That's a hard thing to do as a leader of a company, and to acknowledge that these things exist and that they are not perfect and that they are trying to do their best. So kudos to them for that, and kudos to them for making a game. Just unfortunate that you have a player base that is not very welcoming. So
I was
best of luck on console.
I was just going to say, I don't remember the CEO being a woman. It might not have been. It's president. Shauna Spenley.
Not CEO?
No, CEO is A. Dylan.
Oh, okay. So
President.
President.
Right. Co-founder and
still
chief
like
product officer is Mark Merrill. He's the guy. Everybody knows Mark Merrill. But there's I've never seen this title before. Chief People Officer.
I'm sorry?
Emily Winkle is Chief People Officer. What the hell name is that?
The name fits.
What is that? Anyway,
that sounds like something they didn't want to fire, so they had to create a job.
They had to make it up. Yeah. Okay. So you might have been thinking about Shauna Spenley, though. She's the president of.
Yes. That's who I'm thinking of.
Yep.
But still, like, very significant role, a very significant person in the Valorant community.
Yep.
And she is coming out acknowledging, because there was like this very infamous clip that went around of a female streamer who was told by their culture doesn't matter. They were obvious. They were not in America. They were, I think, Scottish or something. I don't know. They were across the seas from us.
She was British.
This gentleman said, "Have you ever been
raped?"
The R word. Yeah,
raped. We're just gonna say it. We're I can bleep it.
Yeah. So, have you ever been? Do you want to be?
Right. And here, context. She was talking shit first. Let's be clear. She was talking shit to him, and he talked shit back, and she couldn't handle it. Or she could, because by the way she looked, she wasn't really bothered by it. She just decided to use it as cannon fodder.
Right. And if you
or ammunition, excuse me.
If you watch, like, if you just watch the clip alone, it sounds very malicious, very targeted. Mm-hmm. But yes, you're right. You need context around the clip, but it's infamous because of what was said and whether or not it was okay to say. And you have a lot of people supporting the guy saying, yeah, it was a false threat, but you're going to talk shit. You're gonna get shit. And I don't want to sound like, I don't want to sound like I'm sexist or anything, but the truth is you have to have tough skin. And a lot of times women are targeted because they could be, a lot of times they can be soft in games and then take things to heart. They tend, some of these gamers, especially these female streamers, they tend to be extra emotional. And then, like you said, they use that as ammunition to target toxic masculinity when really it's just shit talking.
Toxic masculinity is also not a real thing. Like
it's not a real thing, but I'm using a hot button phrase that is used commonly to target gamers because the gross majority of gamers are males. But I play games with a lot of females and they're tough as fucking nails, dude. Like they
probably get way more sexual with you. Let's be honest.
Dude, they are dirty mind ladies. And I love it. I'm all there for it. And here's the thing. When people talk shit to them, they talk shit right back.
That's all it takes.
They don't take it. But you have a lot of these Twitter users, a lot of these quote unquote influencers who want to be victims. And then they victimize themselves, and then they call these people predators. It's like, okay, but like for someone to really say that, unless they're just that rude, which I don't know this guy from the next person, okay? But to say that, there has to have been some instigation.
Oh, and there was. So like she was literally egging him on as he was saying it, just so she could get that moment where she's I got you. It's like, no, you fucking didn't.
Yeah. Yeah,
you didn't get anything.
That's annoying. And so like the president has come out and spoken about these things and says like we do investigations, we do evaluations, in-person evaluations. In other words, like real people are looking into this stuff. But they can't get to everything, and that there has to be a better system. And she's spoken about this, and I commend her for doing that, because she's like, you can't. She even openly stated, you can't stop this from happening.
Right.
It's going to happen.
She lives in reality, it sounds like.
But we can only do our best to minimize it.
Well,
that's it.
And that's the problem with that girl. And I know we're sticking on this Valorant console edition thing, but it and there's a whole other that's a whole other podcast I actually wanted to do with you with my recent foray into the suspension jail cell. We'll get on that in the next podcast, I promise. So we'll probably bring this whole thing back up, but it's really sad when one instance can be taken out of so much context, and then your right to speech is called into question. It's like, I'm sorry, you're playing online, you're instigating the guy first, you don't look harmed in the video, and as a matter of fact, it looked like she was smiling, to be honest. Nobody who feels attacked looks like that. And I don't care who you are, she was lying. So, for her to just use that as a moment to be like, you guys need to do better. What? It's like the gun reformists. What else can be done? There are background checks for that shit. Upon background checks, what else do you want? It's the responsibility of the gun owner. In this case, it's not Riot's responsibility to monitor and police literally every interaction that happens. They just said it. They cannot do it. If you implement AI, you know what happens. It flags everything, and then nobody can say anything. That's why after my recent encounter, I don't talk to people anymore. It's not worth it. So that's what's going on, is people like her and companies that implement AI solutions are now making it impossible to actually interact with people online, and it steers you away from building a community that could be good. Granted, okay, yes, what I said was not malicious. I mean, what does she think he's going to do? Jump through the microphone and actually rape her? Like, come on, dude. You are insane if that's the reality you live in. Get over yourself. You're not that important.
This has been happening in the Alvo community too, and I say this time and time again. There's a feature to control that. It's called the mute button.
That's it. Solution.
Take some responsibility. If you don't like what you're, it's the same thing if you're watching a newscast, or if you're watching a video that is just triggering you. You don't agree with it. You don't record it and go on a rant and try to control people's words. Instead, you just be like, I don't agree with this. This is annoying. I'm going to change the channel. It's the same thing. We've been doing this forever. In fact, this predates, Western civilization. This predates in the Industrial Revolution. If you don't like something, you either ignore it, don't pay attention, or you just leave the thing that is bothering you. Use the mute button and stop trying to control people. There are going to be mean people out there. There are going to be evildoers, but you have a responsibility to protect yourself, and trying to control speech is not a way of protecting yourself. That's a way of exerting control because you feel weak in that situation.
And that will turn people against you. That will be the quickest way to turn people against you. And she found out real quick. And the saying, as the saying goes, she fucked around and she found out. Nobody cared about her. Nobody said, "Oh, well, we understand." No. The people who say that are trying to get in your pants, the men at least. Okay? They don't actually care about your problems.
They're the ones shaking hands with the president while watching it.
Yeah. No, it's ridiculous, so grow up. Anyway, so Valorant comes to console. The tangents we get on.
I know.
We can talk for hours, and we have been. And we still have the Xbox showcase to come.
And the state of play, but the state of play.
State of play. I did my video on it. I don't know. I don't mind listening to your stuff as well, but we could also do a separate thing on that if you'd like. A separate.
Well, I mean,
episode.
There's not a lot to talk about.
True.
I'll just share my quick thoughts about it, and if anyone's interested in more what I have to say, I mean, just come into my stream.
Yeah, we can
talk about it there.
We'll do that after the Xbox coverage. Last couple of games for the showcase. I know this was long, but I told you guys
it was a 2-hour event.
One. Yeah,
it was a 2-hour event too, so there's a lot to cover.
I told you guys the next one was going to be long, so let's bear with us here. We got a lot to get through. This one really invigorated my love for this franchise. Monster Hunter Wilds was announced. And it just is another Capcom game that it's crazy. Also, again, to think about the last game, Monster Hunter World, came out 6 years ago. It's been 6 years. How has it been that long? Monster Hunter World still feels like it's relevant. The thing is that this is using the new RE engine, and I think Monster Hunter World was possibly using the RE engine, or maybe a derivative of it, an earlier version of it. This is the RE engine, which they've been using since Resident Evil 7, and then they used it in the remakes of 2 and 3, and then 8, and then DMC 5. It's an unbelievable engine. I don't know
really
how they did this, but they are literally taking any genre of game they want and making a game out of it in that engine. I don't know how you do that. Like, there are a lot of engines out there that just can't do it all. Like, Unreal Engine can do it all, but that's always been that way. Take an engine like Frostbite, for example, which was developed by DICE to do Battlefield. EA liked that engine so much, they said, okay, BioWare, make RPGs with this engine. You know how impossible that was for them? That they had to retool the engine to work, and half the time it didn't work. Somehow, Capcom has built an engine that is so unbelievably powerful. They are able to do whatever genre they want and make it look phenomenal. I'm not saying that this game is a humongous graphical leap from Monster Hunter World, but it definitely kind of looks like 6 years worth of a leap. So big graphic fidelity increase. The engine, as I mentioned, is really showing its versatility, and they showed there was a chick at the beginning who's, big mommy Amazon. So kind of there for that one as well. I tweeted that out, actually. It's like, I'll find a tweet. You go ahead.
What I like, so Monster Hunter, I mean, I played Monster Hunter when I was a kid, that, on the PSP. I was a big fan of it. I was a big fan of it then. I'm still a big fan of it, even though I haven't played it in a long ass while. Like, I'll be honest, I haven't played it in a very long time, but I do watch a lot of it, and the core mechanics haven't really changed. But what's important to note here is they took the success of 2 games in particular and combined them. And the 2 games I'm referring to is Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise.
Rise, yep. That just became free on PlayStation Plus, by the way. So
Monster Hunter Rise had gameplay mechanics that you are now seeing in Wilds, and that's the riding mechanic. And you can also store a weapon. If you watch the trailer closely, you can actually switch weapons while mounted.
That's cool.
So you can carry 2 different kinds of weapons. And also, I believe you're going to be able to use your mount as a storage device. But they're taking the best of kind of both worlds. Pun kind of intended there. And
that's 2.
Making a better version. So they've taken essentially 2 great games, combined them to make an even better game. And like you said, they kind of knocked Monster Hunter Wilds out of the park, or at least the Monster Hunter series. I mean, Rise was a great game. It wasn't as big as World, but it was great in its own right. Very popular. And I don't think they've ever done wrong by the Monster Hunter series. I think they've always done well. I anticipate this being just as good. I like that they've kind of updated the environmental visuals, but kind of kept the character designs the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're very consistent. They're not, like you said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't change what works. Don't change. I hate it when games take an IP and they drastically change the way it looks because they feel it's no, keep what works. You know, yeah, it looks good to me. Every Monster Hunter game looks good to me. I don't know if I'll pick this one up. I was considering picking up World, but if you're going to get a Monster Hunter game, expect it to be a time dump because you'll find a lot of enjoyment in these games, and it does require a lot of effort to collect materials, to defeat these monsters, to get specific drops. Sometimes you have to go up against these monsters multiple times before you get these drops. It's time consuming, but you're looking for an action pace or multiplayer Monster Hunter type game. I mean, you can't go wrong with Monster Hunter.
The really big disappointment that I had with World was the fact that you couldn't play the campaign together until you've played it through once, which didn't make sense to me. Jeremy and I tried multiple times to play the game together, and we just couldn't because I had to go through the story to progress to another area or whatever the case may be. And so while we were playing the game at the same time, we weren't playing together, and it was stupid. And I'm like, what the hell, man? So I'm hoping that Monster Hunter Wilds does something different. But this is the tweet that I put out is, why is it the Japanese who are the only ones who know what a woman looks like? This chick is tall, buff, and still looks like a woman. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the new Amazon mommy. She's a good looking chick. What can I say? So she crushed my head with those thighs. Anyway, so yeah, Monster Hunter Rise is on PlayStation Plus right now. I think it's in the catalog. I could be wrong. It might have just been one of the monthly games, but I'm pretty sure it's in the catalog. I think Monster Hunter Rise didn't do as well because it was on Switch only, which was a stupid move. I don't understand what company looks at that device and says, let's go only on that device. Come on, guys. The Switch is not a powerful machine. You know, you can tailor your games to it. Nintendo does it all the time. That's fine. But you are not a first-party developer for Nintendo. You don't know the ins and outs of that technology and how to work with it as well as they do. Stop going exclusive. And that goes for any of them. PlayStation, Xbox, enough with the exclusives. If you don't own those developers, it should not be an exclusive. That's why Bayonetta 2 and 3 should never have been exclusive to Nintendo Switch. That's not a first-party title. And I hate them for it because I love the original and I wanted to play 2 and 3. But it's looking like they'll never come to other consoles, which is a damn shame because those games deserve better than to be on a low-powered piece of shit like that. But I'm excited for Switch 2. So anyway, moving on from Monster Hunter. It looks great. Can't wait for it. Big mommy Amazon. Last game we're going to go over, which, again, just like Black Myth Wukong, I think this is probably one of the most anticipated games ever since it was announced. Phantom Blade Zero is just... the gameplay just confirms so many things for a lot of us because we saw the trailer, the initial trailer, and we're like, there's no way that's real, right? There's no way that's gameplay, right? And the fucking train is right on schedule.
Of course.
You can hear that, can't you?
A little bit.
A little bit. Whatever. Anyway, you guys know I live by I bisect 2 train tracks, so, you know, we'll deal with it for now. But with the gameplay that they showed at this showcase, it's real. That crazy blocking that he was doing in the initial trailer and all the crazy it's all real. I'm like, how are the Chinese doing this? I need to understand how they understand the technology better than we do. You know, like
it's honestly, Adam, I don't think it's a matter of technological understanding. I think it's a matter of unrestrained creativity.
Okay, good point.
We as Western, we have a lot of Western developers that are way more focused on other things, whether it's monetization or accommodating, these civil political disputes.
Yeah,
it's like their focus is completely in the wrong area. It should be focused on gameplay, core gameplay mechanics. It should be based on story. It should be based on performance. And I think Eastern companies, whether they're from Europe, whether they're from India, whether they're from Eastern Asian islands, I think they do not have to compromise or consider these things. Yeah. And so they just go full in on what they believe makes a good game good.
Well, I think especially since they are Chinese, the Chinese government is very generous sometimes when it's projects that they, I'm not saying the Chinese government's good. I'm just saying that they're very generous when it's stuff that they have interest in. Mm-hmm. So, and they're very interested. Obviously, the Chinese gaming market is massive. So if they want to break into the Western audience and stuff like that, they're going to fund stuff like this. That's where Game Science is getting their money from, I'm sure, and these other Chinese developers for Phantom Blade Zero and that Feathers game. I can't remember. I really wish I remember the name of that. Anyway, that it's really, like you said, is allowing these developers to really spread their wings and really do what they are seeing in their heads and really making it a reality. And I am so happy that they're doing it. And I don't give a crap that it's all China. Everybody's got this stigma about Chinese or China in general these days. And, fair point. You should. You can't trust the government, but their funding of these games obviously has nothing to do with that. These developers are talented motherfuckers. And we are seeing it in spades ever since Black Myth Wukong broke onto the scene. Now we're seeing a ton of Chinese developers come out and do some great things. Even with Stellar Blade, it's not Chinese, it's Korean, but still, that was a mobile developer who made this game.
Yeah, that is mind blowing.
Shift Up is unbelievable.
Their step into console game development. I haven't played it, but I watched you play it, and the gameplay loop looks great. I might actually consider getting it when it's a little bit cheaper, just because I have so many other games to play at the moment.
I highly recommend, if you got a PS5, pick up Stellar Blade. Support them.
It looks so good, and I agree with you that the fundamental game development in these areas, in these countries, it's far exceeding that of the Western game developers. And I'm not saying that Americans or Canadians can't make good games. It's just the focus isn't there. We're not producing nearly as many good titles, in my opinion, as what I'm seeing. And maybe I'm a bit biased because these actually, and I will openly admit that I am a little bit biased because these fit my art style interest. Mm-hmm. They're very, I like the Eastern Orient look. Mm-hmm. I like Souls-like games. I like high action combat. I like sword play. I'm not into FPS. And Western game developers are very much into FPS. That's why we have so many of them.
True.
Right? So, I am biased towards this type of style. So I might say that these are better games. But if I look at it objectively, the mechanics of the game and the core foundation of the game is all about the gameplay loop. You look at the FPS shooters that we create, there's so much monetization behind it that a lot of the core game mechanics sit secondary to the storefront. And we've seen this time and time again.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see China hop onto the scene in terms of game development and actually bring them over to the United States, or just the Americas, I should say, and even the European countries. Because we need more games like these, and we need to show, who was it who said no one buys single player games anymore?
That was EA. What a bunch of dumbasses!
Stupid, man. They're just so stupid. They don't understand that people want good games. They don't care if it's a 40-hour or a 10-hour game. They just want a good experience that's memorable.
Right.
And that's what these kinds of games seem to be doing.
Yeah. If you can impress me in a 10-hour stint more than a game that has 20, 30 hours in it and it's just dragging on, you've got yourself a winner. I think it's important to realize that it's not the quantity, it's the quality. And that's why Call of Duty sucks. So I mean that's it's a good spot to end on with that one.
Well, I know that we went through majority of these. If I could just point out, and I don't want to talk at length about these, but I just want to point out things that I'm interested in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cuff Bust, which was created by one person, looks hilarious.
Oh yeah, I left that out because I was like, it's not my type of game. Really.
Yeah, it's definitely like one of those human fall flat kind of games, but you work as a team to try to bust out of jail. There's a lot of adult humor. Isn't it? Yeah, there's you look like little koala bears.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, not rats.
And you kind of try to get your way out of prison. It looks funny, but what's impressive, it was developed by one person. So shout outs to them. Asgard's Wrath, which is a VR title, was once again brought up here. One of the best VR games you could possibly play. Relatively short experience, but well worth it. Again, to your point, quality over quantity. Let's see. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. If you guys are interested in Dragon Ball Z fighting games, this is just Budokai, just another version. Blumhouse Game Studios. The fact that they're getting into the gaming market a little bit more intentionally, good for them.
I didn't include that just because I was like, it's just they had a whole bunch of games in there, so I just think it's
they didn't really look appealing. Yeah, but I think a company that is very focused on horror. We have an abundance of horror games in the gaming industry, but they're not necessarily
quality ones. Yeah,
not really good quality. There's just a lot of them. There's nothing like of the caliber of Phasmophobia. There's nothing of the caliber of some of these other games. So like to see a focused studio strictly on horror games, it's good to see. This game may not be up your alley, but I'm a huge fan. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind.
Oh yeah, I didn't include that because I'm like, that's a small thing. So I was like, but I'm absolutely into it.
Dude, if you want to play that together, I'm so freaking into that.
Classic beat 'em up, of course.
Oh my God, I cannot wait for that game. I even told Luke, dude, I'm going to get this and we're going to play it together. I don't care if you die 100 times. We're playing this together.
Yeah, I mean, I played through the original. Remember the SNES Power Rangers game?
Dude. Oh,
that's on my channel. It took 2 hours to beat it. I'm like, wow, was it really that short?
Yeah, but when you were younger, it was different. It was harder to beat, man. But it was so good. It's like the Teenage Mutant Turtles, Ninjas in Time, right? Or Turtles in Time.
Turtles in Time. You got Shredder's Revenge now, which is like actually just very good.
Very good, yeah. There was Killer Bean, which is kind of a comical Max Payne GTA thing where you're a bean, right? If you're interested in that kind of quirkiness, it looks kind of funny. It reminds me of Conker's Bad Fur Day a little bit, but more like obviously Max Payne GTA sort of thing. If you're interested in that, that's kind of cool. The finals is coming. They already launched season 3. It's in Tokyo. Yeah. Thought that was worth kind of noting if you're interested in that sort of thing. New World, Eternum, not really into New World, but
I still think they should bring that to console.
Yeah, I do too. I think that they can pull themselves out of the gutter of which they laid themselves in. They are progressively getting better. So kudos to them. I just want to give a shout out that they are still working at making this game good. So you always want to acknowledge that. Dark and Darker, now that whole legal dispute is over, that they won, Dark and Darker is now a full-fledged project that is worth looking into. Great game. So many people are very invested in this. Be sure to check that out and stay attentive to that. Power World got its update. Seems to be very, very big. And I think those were the points that I really wanted to talk about.
All right. And moving on, we have one more showcase to go through. And that is, of course, what I have put in parentheses under the title Xbox Showcase, most impressive showcase. Because it genuinely, it really was. It really kind of pulled out all the stops. And they weren't all bangers. All right, let's be clear here. They weren't all great, but in the grand scheme of the whole show, Xbox really came out swinging. And I think they really needed that because they've had one hell of a year. Not just last year, this year too. And hell of a year meaning bad. Okay. I know that can be taken as like, oh, one hell of a year. It was great. No, this was terrible for them. They've been doing awful since the release of the console. They needed this, and I think it was important for them to hit a home run here because people have been asking for a very, very, very long time. Where are the Xbox games? Where are our games, Microsoft? Now, I myself, I do own an Xbox Series S, so I could play Starfield. My computer is not up to snuff to play that game. Loved it. Don't care who you are. I love Starfield, but I really haven't played much else on it. And there are games that I do have on it that I want to play, like State of Decay 2, State of Decay 1 I play on it as well. I got back into playing that game. I love that game so much. But there really isn't much. You know, Gears of War is there, Halo, I suppose, but even Halo's not enough to keep me around anymore. Gears of War played 4 and 5 again. They were great. Still not heard about Gears of War 6 yet, but we'll see in the future. But Xbox, they came out swinging, man. And I can't remember if they started with Call of Duty Black Ops 6, but we did talk. Okay, so they started with that, and we talked about that in the Ubisoft section, which will be shoved somewhere here probably at the end because it wasn't the last day of the shows, but it was one of them. So I might throw that at the end somehow. We'll figure it out. There wasn't much to talk about with Ubisoft. Somehow we were able to talk an hour about it. So, you know, it's more of just like I started recording and we didn't start the show. We just started talking about it, and I'll throw that at the end. You guys will hear it somewhere. It's probably going to be messy. But we talked about Black Ops 6. Treyarch seems to be the only ones who know what they're doing with the franchise. So I'm very interested in this one. I'm not going to be buying it. But it is coming to Game Pass, and I'll pay $15 for 1 month to play the campaign. That'll make me do that. If the campaign, I wait on people's the people who get, you know, early copies of it and get the impressions. If it's good, I'll pay $15 for a month to play the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 campaign. I'd be happy to do that. I love the fact that the marketing was largely focused on the campaign because I don't know about you guys. There was not an inkling of Warzone in there at all. It was multiplayer, but they didn't talk about Warzone at all. And I'm thinking, good. Warzone sucks. And I don't know who keeps playing that piece of garbage game mode. It sucks. And you people are just brainwashed into thinking it's a good game. It's not a good game. And graphically, it looks like Call of Duty. I mean, it's on the newer engines, but now, remember when back in the day you said a game looked like Call of Duty because Call of Duty had a look to it? Well, yeah. Ever since Modern Warfare 2019, it didn't look like Call of Duty. Now it looks like Call of Duty again. So it's weird how Modern Warfare 2019 was such a huge leap in graphic fidelity. We're like, that looks so good. Now it doesn't look like Call of Duty. And then the next games after that came out and we were just like, okay, it looks like Call of Duty again. So it really it sucks that you can look at a game and be like, that looks like Call of Duty, but it's what it is. It has an identity. One
thing that we didn't really talk about earlier in regards to Black Ops 6
or later, depending on when you guys hear this. Hear the Ubisoft section.
In our case, it was earlier.
Right.
The marketing of Black Ops 6 was unique. Because there were leaks, quote unquote leaks, of these things. And they were very confusing because it in no way, shape, or form did these quote unquote leaks, I think obvious intentional content drops. Never in any of these leaks was it clear that it was Black Ops or Call of Duty. People had their suspicions because they're looking and they're like, oh, this has to be it, right? And in some instances, it might have seemed obviously clear, but there was no content around it. And the messaging was they're lying or something to the effect of it. The messaging was very strange. So you're like, what is this? What are you getting from this? And now with this, that I like that marketing, because you're like, hold on, this is something important, but what is it telling me and what is it about? I don't get it. And then you get the trailer drop and it's starting to make a little bit more sense. And now those leaks are blending in with the trailer. I got to give them kudos to that the marketing behind this game was well done.
Well, and it really brings back the memories of the days of old, where when a game was coming out and it was a company had enough money to create hype about it, they did some crazy shit. And I mean, in a lot of cases, very crazy shit. But it got people talking about it, and we don't see that anymore. It's just Call of Duty comes out, it's a big trailer. They buy TV spots on traditional television as well as, internet and stuff like that. And that's all you get. You don't get this little drip feed of like, hey, what could this mean? What do you think this means? And, oh, we didn't leak this. And, and obviously I don't know if these leaks, quote unquote, were done by the Treyarch Twitter account or anything related to Treyarch. But if it was, then I think people knew it was Call of Duty. But, because Treyarch's only ever known for Call of Duty.
But developers have given information to other people to drop.
I see. Okay, so that is smart. That was a good idea.
I don't know if that's what they did here, but I do know that has happened before.
Yeah.
I don't know where the initial quote unquote leaks came from, but what I found unique about it was that it showed video clips of George Bush and other people talking. I think it was very politically charged.
Yeah.
And then the message was they've been lying to you.
Yes.
And you're like, wait, hold on a second. Is this like a political campaign thing? Like, what are they talking? Is this like a real life agenda pushing thing, or is this related to a video game? It was very odd. Right. Because I remember watching Tim the Tap Man react to it, and I remember seeing it before I watched his reaction. I'm like, how is this Call of Duty? I don't understand.
Is this like what was that? Anonymous? Is this Anonymous coming back?
That's what it felt like, dude. And
are we gonna see the Guy Fawkes masks?
But then there were so many people who were like, "This is Call of Duty. Here are the little Easter eggs." I'm like, "But how? Why? There's no gameplay here. I'm so confused." And now with the trailer drop, it all makes sense now. I think it's all based around the story.
I think that's why people really like Black Ops, and it's simply because the political intrigue that it shows. Like I said, 3 and 4, they had nothing to do with the actual story to Black Ops. And it was sad to see because 3 made absolutely no sense and 4 didn't have a campaign. So those were just their stab at the futuristic bullshit. But 1, 2, Cold War, and now 6, very, like you said, politically charged. And I think that's the catch with Black Ops, is that it focuses on that. It doesn't focus on the multiplayer. It focuses on the characters and the story it's trying to tell, which is, I'm watching Jack Ryan. I'm finally going to finish that show up. I love espionage. I love it. It is the most intriguing aspect to politics that gets me interested, which is weird because I hate politics. I think politics is a poison on this world, but boy, do I love espionage, which is probably why Splinter Cell is like one of my favorite game series of all time.
Please bring it back.
Yeah, right. Let's go. You guys didn't technically cancel the franchise, so let's go. Let's get another one. And Metal Gear Solid. Talk about politically charged. Talk about a game franchise that makes absolutely no sense when you.
It hurts my head.
Yeah, there's so much in that, but it's awesome because espionage is awesome. So I think, like you said, it really reminded me. This marketing really reminded me of the days of old where companies would take risks with their marketing and they do some crazy shit, and it usually paid off because people were interested.
Well, this is the first time I feel the Call of Duty franchise really reinvigorated people to focus and pay attention and be like, holy crap, hold on, this might actually be good.
Yeah. Well, Treyarch, like I said, I think they know what they're doing with the franchise. Infinity Ward has lost their mind. Raven Software is a support team that works on Warzone. And Sledgehammer's first game was Modern Warfare 3, the original. The new one, no. The original Modern Warfare 3, I thought was a great start for Sledgehammer. Not too many people liked World War II, but I was okay with it. Sledgehammer's kind of just been not treated very well, and I don't know if they've been given the time that they probably wanted to tell their Call of Duty story, but I think they did a very good job with Modern Warfare 3, the original. I hate the fact that I have to say that. And it's good to see that they're helping on this. I don't know what aspects they're helping on. I can't imagine it's the multiplayer because, I mean, I don't know. Like, most people would say, hopefully it's not the single player because they suck at that. It's like, well, I don't think they were given a fair shot because I liked MW3 or Modern Warfare 3. So, as did a lot of other people. So anyway, yeah, Black Ops 6, very intriguing. Won't be buying it, but it's on Game Pass, so I'll probably pay $15 to play it. Moving on. This one, out of left field and just in your face, Doom the Dark Ages.
Out of left field, 100% dead on. So like, good. What the hell? Oh my God, this is a precursor to the whole story of Doom guy?
We're assuming just because you got the medieval look to it.
Well, it says at the beginning of this video, let me go back to it. Before he became a hero, he was the super weapon of gods and kings. So this is like Doom guy before he was Doom guy.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, you see it
so good.
You see it, like the first visual of him shows his armor, which is a little bit different from what we're used to. But he's also wearing what seems to be like a fur cape.
Yeah.
Like, it's very Nordic,
medieval,
and like even medieval type of, because even there's like this chainmail cloth thing hanging from his belt. He's got spikes on his shoulders. He's got a shield that he's holding in one hand. It's so not Doom guy.
It's so metal.
But it's so fucking cool.
Yeah, and my notes are extremely hyped for this one. Very unexpected. Love the setting. The idea of Middle Ages mixed with demons is cool. That's cool as shit. And then the last note just says Buzzsaw Shield.
Hold on. I didn't notice this because I'll be honest, I didn't take very good notes on the Microsoft because I just remember being like, wow, that was an incredible showcase.
Right.
But I didn't take very close look at the trailers and take specific notes. But I'm noticing here that there is a gun that is loaded up with a skull, and the skull is pushed through this grinder to shoot out bone clips as bullets.
The bone shard gun.
Come on, dude. That is so cool.
Yeah, id Software is getting dangerously close to being the Insomniac games of Microsoft. Like, they are coming up with some of the coolest fucking weapons ever. I mean, and who would have thought to add a hook chain to the shotgun? I mean, come on.
And the creature designs, the demon designs here, along with Doom has even back on the original Doom, we had the floppy disk. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
we had the
just
floppy
a demo,
disk.
but we got it.
We're fucking old, okay?
Yeah, the small floppy disks, by the way.
We had not the large ones,
it's not the actual floppy ones.
But even back then, when games were very, like Doom took it to a whole nother level.
Yep.
And even though the graphics weren't impressive, the intensity, the difficulty, you remember going into hell and how impossible it was to just kill everybody in hell when you're in that pitch black room, dude?
Yep.
No, that was impossible. So like Doom has always been this gritty, difficult, very intense in your face, and I don't really want to say visceral, but like
it's a good word.
I guess every move, every action taken was very impactful.
Mm-hmm.
Like it felt physical.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
From the melee to the kicking, the punching, the kicking, and the thuds and the sounds of the weapons, even down to the music choice.
Yeah,
it's just very like boom, boom, boom. Like it's so good, dude.
Yeah.
I don't play a lot of Doom games, but I do love them. Every time I get my hands on one.
You should play the new trilogy. Like this is now a new trilogy at this point.
And the weird thing here is that they have flying dragons mount things. Yeah. Like what? This is like not the Doom you're used to. So I'm curious to see where this goes.
But this is going to be awesome. It's sad to say though, Mick Gordon is not the composer on this one. If you are unaware, of course, Mick Gordon, the original composer for the 2016 Doom and Doom Eternal, but there was some falling out during the Doom Eternal. It was very upsetting because it's like, I think overall Mick was in the wrong. And it's weird to say that, but I mean, id Software has never really given us a reason to dislike them. They're actually, again, one of the few developers in this world that are actually good at what they do. And I don't think they were in the wrong in this one. I think Mick might have misunderstood or misinterpreted something. And, I don't know if they used his music. I think they did. But for the most part, Mick is not doing this soundtrack. But I'll tell you what, whoever is, damn sure came real close to sounding just like Mick Gordon's mix. So big props to whoever the composer is for Dark Ages, because it sounds so fucking good. It's the
only thing I know about that controversy was that the music in the game was very diverse. Diverse is not the wrong word.
It was remixed. I know
it was not the right word. The music in the game showed levels, it had levels to the audio, right? Like you could hear the different levels. But when it was released on an album, it was very flat.
Okay.
And there was some sort of controversy. Like Mick was saying, that is not mine. Someone had taken it. They had reproduced it, put on the album. I would never have done that, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so there was this bit. That's, to my knowledge, I don't know if that's what the primary controversy was over, but that was at least a part of it. And that was a very big thing for a lot of people. That just created that situation, which just ended in a very bad relationship. I'm not surprised he's not in on this, but the music has to be key. If it's not good music, then it ruins Doom.
If it ain't metal, it ain't Doom. That's all I'm going to say. But whoever's composing it, good job. This next one, I mentioned the two previous games before this one, State of Decay 3. I am a big fan of this franchise, and I never thought I would be, just because of how janky the first game was, but it had to start somewhere. And Undead Labs, they are so good at making a survival zombie melee shooter type game. The first game just gripped me. I haven't played the second game. I heard it was pretty good, obviously good enough for a third game. The sad thing about this is that while the trailer looked good, it wasn't gameplay. And we've only had one other trailer, and that was obviously a cinematic. It was a very nice cinematic. But it's, again, not gameplay. There might have been some snippets in the trailer that looked like gameplay, looked like it could have been gameplay. And if it was, then they've shifted drastically from a behind the character camera to a over the shoulder. But I really was hoping for gameplay here. I don't know what they're doing with the game. I don't know where they are in development, but they're just showing another trailer. And I'm not saying I'm worried. I don't worry about video games. I play them. I enjoy them. I don't worry about development of certain games. If they're going to take years, they're going to take years. I have a backlog. Trust me, it's fine. But this again, another trailer, no gameplay. This would have been the moment to show something. That trailer was a couple years ago already. So what's going on? What are they doing? So I don't know. I like the look of the trailer. Some of it might have been gameplay intersected with the trailer, seamlessly to make it look like it was part of the trailers, whatever. But I'm excited for this one, but we need gameplay.
Yeah, I'm watching the trailer back as well, and there were moments that it looked like, if you're ADSing, you're directly over the shoulder, the right shoulder. And I agree with you. Trailers are nice, but we've seen the deceptiveness and disingenuousness of trailers like this. It's not representative of what you're going to get, and gamers don't really care about this. They care about what the game looks like as a product. And when you fail to represent that, then it brings into question, okay, what are you hiding? Because otherwise you have a game like Days Gone, and it's just like, it's a big flop. You lied, and then you lose the trust of the consumer. So
I'm actually not familiar with the Days Gone situation, because I really love Days Gone. Yeah.
Was it Days Gone what I'm thinking of?
Are you thinking of Watch Dogs?
No.
Oh. I don't know. Days Gone, I don't remember.
No, not Days Gone. What? No, not Days Gone. What was that big flop game? It was just Unreal Engine 5 assets put in. It was
there's a lot of those.
The one of the most recent ones was supposed to be a multi MMO survival. Not Days Gone.
The day before.
Day before.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
I had day in my head. Listen, it's 11:15. My brain stops working.
Yeah, I know. Whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, days before, whatever.
The day before,
you get a situation like that, and you just, it is what it is. So, I don't know much about State of Decay. I don't really follow it. I do know what it is about, but I haven't played it myself. But I mean, hey, if they've been successful in the past and they're showing a cinematic, it's probably because they're trying to build up hype. And then soon, because we got a lot more game shows to see in this year, like Tokyo Game Show, and there's a couple others, right? We're probably going to see gameplay. I don't doubt it. At some point, they'll reveal it.
Fingers crossed. I'd really like to see this game, because I want to see the graphical leap is drastic, if that's what it looks like. I've only ever played the first game. The second game I know looked pretty decent, but I haven't played it through yet. But if this is the way the game's going to look, I mean, obviously, again, that was a cinematic. But if any of those little snippets where the character is aiming down sights, if any of that is gameplay related, this game's going to look good. And I'll be interested to see what engine they're using. But for what we have right now, not much. The next one you mentioned before, I don't know if it was in the last segment or in the Ubisoft discussion, but Dragon Age the Veilguard. I actually didn't realize that there was a gameplay trailer until much later, and I haven't really looked at it yet, but I've seen a snippet of it. It looks good. The gameplay looks good, I guess. Visually, the game looks good. I think they're still using Frostbite, so somehow they've been able to really hone it in with Frostbite and actually made it run well. But I don't know, man. That trailer was really cringy. The Dragon Age all of a sudden is this lighthearted nonsense. I mean, I get that you had the Varric, who is the dwarf guy, and he was introduced in 2, I think. Great character, supposed to be comedy relief. Also, he's supposed to be the logical person, which is also crazy. He's comedy relief and he's logical in the group. Very big part in Inquisition. However, this was so far removed from what Dragon Age started out as, which is it was a dark fantasy RPG. We have the Blight. We have the what the hell was their name? I forgot the name of the it was on the tip of my tongue. The bad guys. I call myself a Dragon Age fan. I forgot the name. Darkspawn. There we go. Got it. See? Told you. You have the Darkspawn. The Blight is spreading across the country, and you're there to stop it. It was dark fantasy. It was gritty. It was evil, and it was good. And then Dragon Age 2, people absolutely hated. I played it. I liked it, but it's like, yeah, it was janky compared to the first one. It didn't really have the grittiness of the first game. And then the third game went a little bit more bright in terms of the color, but it wasn't really silly. So it actually, it did actually have that dark fantasy feeling to it where you went around, you talked to people, and they were just distraught with despair. And so that part of it definitely played out pretty well in Inquisition. This is going way too far into the funny side of things. This is not supposed to be lighthearted. This is, you're fighting the forces of fucking evil. Why are we making jokes? They're trying to make it like similar to the Fable trailer. Being silly and having fun with it. That's not Dragon Age, man. BioWare, what are you doing, first and foremost, with that? And secondly, why the fuck did you change the name? Dragon Age Dreadwolf was such a cool name. Now it's Dragon Age The Veilguard. Take the out and just call it Veilguard if you wanted to change the name. But enough with... Dreadwolf was a much better name. You guys are idiots.
I can say this much. Without having played a Dragon Age game, I had to educate myself because I don't want to go into this conversation again.
Yeah, that's fine.
I hear Dragon Age Origin was probably the best one in the series.
It is. I mean, I guess that's up for debate because people loved Inquisition, but I think they loved it more for the gameplay aspect rather than the story. But I have not played through that one yet, so I don't know the entirety of the story yet.
But what I can say from a viewer looking in, if I've never seen a Dragon Age game before, which I never did. I know the name, I know the title.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a Dragon Age game.
You're probably more familiar with Mass Effect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. I looked at this initial trailer and I was like, okay, graphical design, like it's very polygonal in a lot of ways with very good lighting. It seems dark in some regards, but then you have very bright purples and popping color. The contrast is so stark because if you look at their clothes, it's very dark. There's a lot of dark undertones, but then if you actually watch the gameplay trailer, there's so much color that pops that it's almost sickening because the contrast is so intense that it's like what
it's very it's very fantastical, like Harry Potter.
You know how I said before that with that one game how there was a lot of visual noise. That's how I feel with this game.
Hyperlight Break.
And I don't really know much about Dragon Age. So then I started listening to some reviews and some people criticizing not only this trailer but also the gameplay trailer. I'm like, okay, yeah, the gameplay looks very bland and basic. It's like very repetitive strikes.
Yeah.
Looks very choreographed, not very exciting to watch.
There's no
visually.
imagination, yeah.
And then I was like, but how is this so different? What are the other Dragon Age games look at? And then I go back and I look, and I'm like, this is what I was talking about before when I was mentioning a complete deviation from the identity of a game.
Yep.
Where you change something up so drastically. That's what they did here.
Oh, yeah.
I look at the other Dragon Age games, it's like, that shit looks better.
Yeah.
Like you could see what they were going for in terms of the thematic scenes and character designs that they were going for. And then you go to this, it just seems like a completely different game.
Yeah.
It doesn't even belong in the Dragon Age series. I don't know enough about this series and I don't know enough about the developers, but why would you do this to your fan base?
I said this. I could say the same thing about the recent Assassin's Creed trilogy.
Tell me about it.
It's not an Assassin's Creed game. There's no identity to Assassin's Creed. So why the hell are you calling it Assassin's Creed? Maybe Origins, but I would say Odyssey and Valhalla do not belong in the Assassin's Creed titles.
Nope.
Doesn't there's nothing.
And
to
Mirage
do with
is excluded from that because Mirage it
It's
was
not
originally a DLC from
It's not a
Valhalla,
mainline,
but then they made it and it actually is Assassin's based.
But so the original Dragon Age was a standard what was considered a CRPG back then, just computer RPG, where you had your character, you told them to attack, and they would auto attack, kind of similar to like World of Warcraft or something like that. And then you could do on the PC. I don't know if you could do this on the PS3. I forgot, but you could do an overhead top-down view and kind of like have it be a real CRPG where you can see the whole field and all your people, and you could tell them to do certain things. And then the second one went more action-oriented, where you held a button and your character did the action rather than you pushing a button and they just automatically do it. The second game was a bit jank. It didn't go over so well, but they took the action orientation of the combat in the second game, brought it into the third game, but then also put the CRPG elements back in where you could have a top-down view and all this other stuff. So it was kind of an amalgamation of the two, and I think that's why people actually really liked Inquisition. And the story overall, I think, was hit or miss with a lot of people in Inquisition. Like I said, I can't speak to it personally because I haven't finished it. But from what I have played, I enjoy it. But they kind of hit a good sweet spot with Inquisition. And it just looks like the Veilguard is... I'm going to call it Dreadwolf. Fuck you guys. Dragon Age Dreadwolf. It doesn't... like I said, it looks like a darker Harry Potter. Like, I mean, that's just if you're using magic or whatever. If you're a magic user, if you're using, swords and shields, it probably doesn't look like it. But that's what it looks like. They just copied and pasted what a game like Harry Potter or, maybe a Dark Souls game did. And it's the same combat style of game. And it's so dumb. There's no identity here anymore. BioWare is losing their grip. And they started with Andromeda, and I'm sad to say for me because I loved Andromeda. Yeah, but ever since Andromeda, they have lost their grip on their franchises, and this is it. This is gonna make. I think this game genuinely is gonna make or break BioWare at this point.
It's gonna break them because I'm looking back at Dragon Age Origins, and yes, it's a very old game.
Oh yeah,
but you can see what they're going for. This is a cross between Lord of the Rings and Skyrim. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It's got that medieval kind of feel with a little bit of, some mystical elements.
It wasn't overly fantastical.
No, it wasn't. It was it seems like, just look, like, yeah, the graphics are of its time, but
right.
It doesn't look, I don't know what Dreadwolf, Veilguard, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It is not this.
No.
If Origins, if Dragon Age Origins is the continuation of the themes and the presentation that Dragon Age originally was, then what are they doing with Veilguard? Like I said,
they don't know.
You put them next to each other, you would think they're completely different games.
Yep.
They just look completely different.
The only thing they have in common are some of the characters. That's about
it. And this is why I'm saying it is going to break the developer. It is not going to make them. There's already hyper criticism. The game hasn't even been released yet. It's releasing this fall. I mean, we could go on and on about the choices being made here, but this is what developers have to really take in consideration. The consumers don't want this. If you have a theme, if you have a formula that works, right, then you don't change it unless it's harmful. Like Coca-Cola used to put cocaine in their soda. That's why it's called Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And once that was found out, they had to change the recipe because cocaine is obviously harmful. So, if it's harmful, then change it. But if it's not, then keep it. Why?
Yeah.
The great disparity between what was to what is now. It's mind-blowing. They have to stop this. The Veilguard is going to ruin them.
Yeah. Well, and it's if they weren't already ruined before, BioWare is on their last legs, not just with their fan base, but I think with EA, technically, well, no, not technically. Andromeda was a flop. Anthem was a flop.
I wish Anthem was not a flop.
I wish it wasn't either. I actually enjoyed playing it, but the limitations that they imposed on themselves really hurt the game. They had a good concept, but they didn't know what they were doing, and I can put some blame on EA, because they wanted them to. They pushed them into making a live service game. They're not equipped for that. These companies, these developers that are being told, like, oh, perfect example, Rocksteady with Suicide Squad. Who the hell told them to make a live service game? That's a single player developer. Why are you telling them? And Arcane Austin, Redfall. There's another great example.
Never happened.
Who the fuck told them that was a good idea? So, it's really disappointing to see one of the greatest developers of all time just fall so far from grace. Another great developer so far from grace, especially one as storied as BioWare. They made KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic. I mean, are you kidding me? And now they're developing this?
It just looks. I'm going back to Veilguard. It just doesn't. It's so bad.
It looks so bad. The name is stupid. You guys need an overhaul. I don't, and they can't afford it. That's the sad part. They've already announced it. EA's probably allowed them to push it back a little bit, but if they say, okay, people aren't liking this, we need to go back to the drawing board, EA's not going to allow that.
I know we're spending some time on this, but it goes like it's very, very important that people recognize, as someone who I'm speaking of myself, as someone who's not invested in this series, to look at this in a comparative analysis. I am frustrated because this is stupid. If you didn't, it's like what you had said before. If you just take the Assassin's Creed out of the name, if you just had Odyssey or Valhalla, that'd be acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
What this should be, it looks like a completely different game. It should not have the Dragon Age title to it. It's not fair to the fans. It's a shame.
And I can say the same thing about one more game, Battlefield Hardline. Should not have had Battlefield in front of it. Shouldn't have been associated with the franchise at all. I like the game personally, not the story. The story sucked, but the multiplayer was fantastic. But it should not have had Battlefield in the name. If they just called it Hardline Cops and Robbers or some stupid shit like that, I think it could have done well on its own. People would have definitely put two and two together and said, hey, this is a Battlefield game, but it wouldn't have had the Battlefield name attached to it, and it wouldn't have tarnished the game or the reputation of the franchise. But it did. And I feel the same way about Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Valhalla. And this Dragon Age is going to tarnish the reputation of the franchise. That's actually in a good place right now. Dragon Age is in a good place with, Inquisition. People love that game. And this is going to ruin it. So that's all we have to say about that. Next one that I'm personally excited for. Starfield's getting its first expansion called Shattered Space, and boy, does it look good. And
looks like Dead Space to me.
It honestly, yeah, it had this Dead Space feel about it, because the environment or environments that they showed off are very supernatural looking, very crazy looking, and very dark. And so I'm actually I put in this new environments look very, very good. And I'm really excited for this one because more Starfield in my eyes is just better for me. I absolutely love the game. And I don't know what Bethesda's got in store. I don't know what this Shattered Space story is going to be about, but it's looking pretty crazy.
Hopefully it can reinvigorate people to come back.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people did shit on the base game. And, I'm, like I said, not a game that I'm interested in. I'm not really into Space Odysseys, although No Man's Sky has hooked me.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of Bethesda games. I was never into Fallout series. I tried Skyrim. I know you love it. Mm-hmm. I watch your videos. With no fast travel, by the way, if you want to check it out, go watch them on his channel. They're awesome.
Plug.
I don't like the political speak at their conferences. I don't like them, sugarcoating things, making things sound better than they actually are, and then they come out and they're not exactly how they were necessarily described. And that frustrates me. That leads me to not believe anything that they say. And for those who like this game, I'm excited for you. I'll admit that trailer looks pretty good.
So good.
It looks really cool. I like the aesthetic. I like the dark undertones, and I like the mystery aspects to it. And from what I do know, Bethesda has a history of making good stories. So if they could tell a good story here, I hope it brings people back to the game and they can enjoy it.
Well, and I'm assuming what you're primarily talking about was the Fallout 76 debacle. Where
yes,
he came out as like 16 times the detail, and it wasn't even close.
I think Todd Howard is a political speaker, and when I say that, I mean talks a big game, doesn't always produce the outcome.
Right
now, if you look at games like Skyrim or the Oblivion series, right, there's a lot. What keeps those games alive are mostly the modders. Let's be honest, that they have kept those games alive. Were they good games? Absolutely. People love them for obvious reasons. They've stood the test of time because people do enjoy them. But modders keep it fresh.
Right.
And Bethesda can tell good stories. I know this because, there's enough people giving it accolades on the story front to make that statement. I don't have personal experience with it, but I give credit where credit's due. If that many people say they can do a good job, then I am inclined to believe them. It looks like they are still investing in Starfield. They still believe in it, and if they are confident in their product, despite people saying, "Wow, you can travel world to world." Okay, yeah, you really can't because it's an excessive number of loading screens. And you can't really explore the entire planet. You can only explore to a certain degree, and there's nothing on those planets. These were all criticisms. People found it boring, bland, but the story elements were all right. Now, this seems a little bit more mysterious. This seems a little bit darker. This seems like it's more streamlined, perhaps. I'm excited to see how this turns out.
Well, and I will say that, a couple things. The first thing is, yes, I think Todd Howard has a inkling of Peter Molyneux in him. He is the modern day Peter Molyneux, hypes up everything and then it underdelivers. But this is every time I will go to defend Starfield, because I don't know where people got this idea from. Not once was it ever mentioned that you could go from planet to stars to planet. Not once. They never said that. They never actually showed that you could do that. And they never said it was part of the feature set. Where people got that idea, I have no clue. But they never said you could actually go from planet to space and back to planet. That was never part of the deal. The planets being able to traverse the whole planet and stuff like that, I don't know what was said. They certainly didn't show that you would be reaching a border, but it was mentioned by Todd Howard that yes, planets will be empty, because think about it. This is a game that's relatively grounded in reality, aside from the space powers. Everything else is grounded in relatively realistic settings. The ships, they don't look sci-fi. They look like something we might build these days with parts that we have. The spacesuits are not sci-fi unless, of course, you become one of the Ascended. I can't remember the name, but it's like one of the Ascended. Then you get this really cool spacesuit and stuff like that. You get this really alien-looking ship. But if you stick around as a human, or at least as a standard human, and your suits, they look like modern day spacesuits. So it's all grounded in reality to a point. But I don't think it was ever indicated that you could explore an entire planet, but they didn't say you couldn't either, I think. So that right there, I can see why people would be pissed. But they did explicitly state that you cannot go from planet to space and then back again seamlessly. It just wasn't in the cards.
I think part of the frustration is that you have games like No Man's Sky that prove that it can be done.
Well, that and Star Citizen, yeah.
And, but that's a whole other subject.
Yeah, well.
But it's one of those things where there's a strong comparison between No Man's Sky and Starfield. And people are saying, how come you can do it in this game that is significantly older and they're still able to do it versus this game? And I mean, there are arguments to be made. Starfield is much more graphically superior and demanding. So to load all that in would require a loading screen in some regards.
Right, but I still point you back to Star Citizen.
Yeah.
Which is even more graphically demanding and still able to do it. Now, my rebuttal to that is, sure, No Man's Sky is older than Starfield, but Starfield's running on an engine older than mankind. So it's just, that's the limitation.
Instructions are chiseled in stone.
Yeah, that's the limitation that people need to keep in mind. This engine sucks. And yeah, it's cool that they updated or whatever. It's still the same engine. It still sucks.
If we go off of that point, which I think is a very valuable point that you bring up, and I wasn't thinking about at all. But if you go off of that point, then wouldn't you think that the developing studio might reconsider using that engine?
You would think,
if it's got its limitations. And this is just the fault of Bethesda and the choices that they've made.
Right.
In a lot of regards, it's like you want to make a comprehensive experience that is, relatively seamless, but you can't do it because of the limitations of your engine. So then just don't use that engine. But they seem to be stubborn. Now, again, I'm just speaking based on what I've heard, and I haven't played it. I hear that there are these criticisms, and I can say that they're fair criticisms. But you know what? Bethesda has never been known to put out like the most impressive looking games or the most impressive performing games, but they do put out relatively good quality games. And Todd Howard is one of those people who has said, and I don't agree with this, but he has said it, it's not about how a game launches, it's about what it becomes.
No, I don't agree with that either.
And he has been consistent with that. And if he holds true to that statement, then this expansion, the Shattered Space expansion, should be an evolution and a good leap forward towards what the game can become.
Yep. And hopefully, fingers crossed that it does. And look, I'm really happy that you say they're stubborn. They're one of the few developers still using their own engine. Like a lot of developers are going to Unreal, they're going to Unity, they're going to CryEngine. Developers aren't developing their own engines anymore because it's time and money. But at least Bethesda's still using their own engine and they know how to work with it. But get on a new fucking engine. Creation Engine sucks, dude. It's old. Get rid of it. Bring it out back and shoot it in the head. It's ridiculously old. Get on something new. So many people have proven time and time again, use Unreal Engine. It can do what you want. I don't know if you saw this, but somebody redid the Watchtower from Skyrim in Unreal Engine 5 and it looked unbelievable.
It's gorgeous. I did see that.
Like, come on, dude. You can make your games look like that and still be able to be seamless transitions from planet to space. All right? Come on. Anyway, that's Shattered Space.
Yeah, since we're on the topic of Bethesda, the next one is Fallout 76, correct?
Well, I'm not on my list. I don't really. That's whatever. I mean, I play Fallout 76 sometimes, but that to me was just like, it's a nothing burger. I mean, it's just more 76 if you're into that. Like I said, cool. I have it. I like it. From what I played, I really need to kind of just start over, and I'm more interested in the story because I think that's actually it might be a strong point of the game at this point.
Cool.
No, the next one in my list is one that I was not expecting. I think a lot of people weren't expecting, and it stars my boy Ben Starr. If you don't know who Ben Starr is, he played Clive in Final Fantasy 16. It's Claire Obscure Expedition 13 or 33.
This looks so good.
I put this in. This is a question. Western RPG, but turn based. In what world would you ever see a Western RPG that's turn based? In a million years.
You know, I honestly think turn based systems are becoming a more
relevant?
acceptable, a more acceptable play style. It can be innovated on. There are new ways to implement it, and but what really strikes me about this game is the scale and just the God, it looks so good.
How cool! Well, and again, another game just like with Metaphor. How cool is that fucking UI?
Oh, dude. I'm looking at the combat UI. And it reminds me of Final Fantasy X, dude.
It's so good.
It's just
so fucking good.
You have the turns on the left hand side, and then you have their health, and what I'm assuming
just the UI design is unbelievable to look at. It's crazy.
As far as I'm concerned, visually, this game is beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
I don't mind turn based. And looking, here's the thing. You see what seems to be a cinematic at the beginning of the video, and then you see the gameplay. It's the same fucking thing.
They kind of, we're at that point.
It's so good. I mean, here's this one scene. It looks like the female protagonist is underwater, and then this looks so compelling to me. It's pulling me in automatically. I'm not even listening to it right now, but I bet you if I went back and listened, I'm like, man, that sounds so good. I'm interested in it. But you don't see turn-based anymore or as much anymore.
You don't see it in Western RPGs. That's what I'm trying to point out here. That's a JRPG mechanic. Or game style.
Didn't Legends of the Dragoon require didn't that have a mechanic where you had to time a button press to improve? They have that in here.
They do.
I remember using that system, and I was like, that is so cool because there's a degree of skill required.
Yep. Final Fantasy VIII also had something similar. I think it was specifically with Squall, but it was. But
you're right. Thing. This UI system where it's a player's turn and it fans out your options fan out from the character.
It's very Persona. Like they took that idea from Persona, no doubt. And again, you take a look at Metaphor, it's very similar. They did some very samey things, but it's such a cool look. And not only that, but the premise of the game, I don't think I've ever seen it's a woman who's painting people out of existence based on their age. What? Who thought of that? That is insane. People are getting killed off because of their age, but it's some woman who's just painting the number. And I'm like, this is fucking nuts, dude. It looks so good. I'm so excited. Not just to hear the sultry, smooth sounds of Ben Starr's voice, but it just looks unbelievable, and I can't wait. I think at this point, now that Ben Starr is in the limelight like he deserves to be, I'm pretty much just going to be on board for any project he's a part of. We'll have to see how that goes, but I'll let you guys know when my Ben Starr collection gets to 20. The next one, I think you might as well also be interested in. South of Midnight. It's okay. This is another game where it's been said that Sweet Baby Inc. is involved in. I am so tired of all this, and I am choosing to ignore it at this point. I want to play video games. I want to play video games. I want to enjoy them. And if they look good to me, then I don't care. People are upset because the original design of the female lead was a white woman with, I think, red hair or something like that. Now it's a black woman. And I'm like, look, they're in Louisiana, I think. They're in the bayou.
I was gonna say it looks like a bayou there.
Black people existed in Louisiana. Like, who cares, man? Oh, she was white. Now she's black. Who cares? All right, they're in Louisiana.
No,
they exist in Louisiana.
Honestly, her being black fits the
environment. It kind of works, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. If you look at Assassin's Creed Liberation, it was the same thing, right?
What was her name?
Not Liberation. Yeah, Liberation.
It was
that was Aveline.
Aveline. There we go.
It was Aveline.
Yep.
And so, like,
a black French lady, by the way.
Yeah.
In Louisiana, I think.
This game. Okay, so like, what is interesting about this game is that there's a bit of a stylistic clash between, like, there's some cell shading going on. And then you look at this like big fish dragon thing that she's riding on, and it doesn't quite fit the cell shade. It almost looks Eastern Asian, like Chinese almost.
Well, it's like a giant catfish, I think.
Yeah, but it looks like it's been bedazzled. So it's kind of weird. It's like half of its face is different from the other half. Right?
Yeah.
So you got the cell shading of the main character, then you got this Asian-inspired artistic catfish-looking thing, and then the backdrop looks like an oil painting. Yeah. It's very contrasting, like, unique combination of stylistic patterns. And I don't necessarily know much about this. I didn't really look into it. But what I do remember is very big creatures.
Yes.
And what's also interesting, it almost looks, I don't know if this is a frame rate issue. You would know better. So I think it's
I was actually just going to bring that up, though.
Is it frame rate issues, or is that a choice to make it like a pure stop action?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. I mean, and I was watching the Act Man do his little reaction to this whole thing, and he kept saying, man, I love the idea, but the frame rate. And I left a comment in his video, and I only got like 1 like on it, but like I said, no, that what you're seeing, just like with the mixtape game that they showed off as well, which I didn't put on my list because that doesn't look interesting at all to me, but it's a stylistic choice to make it look like stop motion animation. It's not a frame rate issue, because if you notice, the rest of the game is running at 60 frames a second. So, or whatever frame rate they had the video at. It's a stylistic choice to make it look like stop motion animation, and I love it. I love the look of it.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the Corpse Bride or Nightmare Before Christmas.
It's a Tim Burton stop motion video game sort of thing.
And you don't really see that much anymore. I think it's cool. It's a little jarring at first because we're so accustomed to like having a very smooth experience. But like I said, the artistic stylization that clashes in here it clashes the wrong word. The way that they introduce a bunch of different stylistic, artistic styles into this game, and then you put stop motion action into this as well. It's this weird melting pot of stylistic choices that seems to kind of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't think it would work well if it wasn't stop motion inspired. I think if she was running at 60 frames a second, just like the rest of the game, it just wouldn't hit as hard. But I think their choice to do stop motion animation was a good choice.
I wonder if it's part of a storytelling element.
Well, think about Hi-Fi Rush too. Hi-Fi Rush did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And people loved it. So why should this be any different?
I think it's just, Hi-Fi Rush was a little bit more, cartoonish.
Yeah, but they did the same thing. The characters ran at, I think mostly just in cutscenes, they ran at a lower frame rate than the rest of the game to kind of give it that,
I just think it's because of, oh my God, that giant alligator or crocodile. I think it's just because this seems like a 3-dimensional sort of thing, whereas Hi-Fi Rush was more of like a cartoon anime, like 2D kind of style. It's just weird to see stop animation in a video game that is of a 3-dimensional design.
Yeah, but
I could see why people would wouldn't mind in a 2D kind of design, but I don't really take in consideration what a lot of people say about a game that's unreleased. You know, these are all just interpretations based on something that we're seeing that isn't even a final product.
Right.
I personally think the choices are cool. I think the big ass creatures is compelling enough to intrigue me. Like, why are they? What is their relevance? And why is this small petite woman in this environment? Like, what is she doing?
Yeah, we have no idea what the full story is, but it's something to do with her mother, and you know, the fish promised to get them out of there or whatever. I don't know, but we'll find out when that one comes out. That one interested me from the get-go when they had the giant, looks like zombie skeleton dude playing the guitar on the dock, and she just walks up to him. Remember that initial trailer? Yeah. That one got me going. So I'm like, okay, this one looks cool. The fact that Sweet Baby Inc. influenced them to change it from a white woman to a black woman, who cares? I don't like the fact that Sweet Baby Inc. and consulting companies like Black Girl Gamers and all them exist, because all they're doing is ruining gaming, but I'm tired. I'm tired of worrying about that. If a game looks good, I'm going to play it. Bottom line. And that's the way we should all think about it. Stop giving them any clout. You stop giving them clout, they disappear.
Yeah.
Anyway, next one is, I think, one that so many people are anticipating to be good. It's just really awkward because the main guy is not a part of it. Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater. The remaking of Metal Gear Solid 3. It looks good. I there's nothing I can say bad about it. It looks like they are really staying true to the original vision. In fact, Digital Foundry did a side-by-side comparison of the original with the scenes from the new game that they showed, and it's 1-to-1. The camera angle, I think they said, is a little bit higher, but it's the same shots to a T. So the game, and hell, they even said in the trailer that they put out that if you want that weird, I think it was like a yellow tint to the game, like it had back in the day, you could turn it on. It's a thing. So Konami, I don't know what's up with you guys. You ditch gaming. Pachinko machines are your future, and now you're back all of a sudden, and you're giving us Silent Hill 2 remake, which I'm hoping is better than what we saw. And now we're also getting a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, and it's looking amazing. I don't know what turned you guys around. Maybe the higher ups got fired because the people higher than them saw that they were screwing up, and they said, let's get somebody in here to get us back in. But you guys are kind of coming back a little bit, and I hope you stay the course, because you're doing this. You're doing this game justice. The original vision of Kojima is in full swing here, and I hope that you guys stick to it and you don't change anything about it, because if you do, we will come after you.
I'm pretty certain that Konami and Kojima,
they patched it up.
Yeah, they made amends,
but he's not working for them. He's just patched it up
because he's still got Kojima Productions.
Yeah, he's got his own thing now. So
Snake Eater though is held in such high regard primarily because of the environmental stealth mechanics that can be utilized. From the outfits that you're wearing to rubbing yourself in mud to wearing, carcasses to hide yourself. Like, there's so many different things that you can do in the game. And the stealth was so critical. I remember Rob playing it and how difficult it could be at times. But you could also kill certain bosses before you actually get into their fights, and you wouldn't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, and then there was that whole trick with the end.
Yeah.
Not the end of the game, but the guy named the end.
The old guy.
I love that trick.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know what we're talking about this old trick where with the character named the End, he was an literally old, I think he was like 80 years old or something, sniper guy. And he was like one of the best snipers. And normally the fight, if you take it straight up, is a bit difficult. But there's this little trick that Kojima thought where if you turn the game off and you advance your system, I think it was the PS2 system clock forward I don't know, a certain number of years, you go back into the game, he's dead. He's dead from old age. It was so good.
This isn't the first time that Kojima has done something like that. Because if you look at Metal Gear Solid, you remember Mantis? You had to switch the controller and the memory card and all that, and he couldn't because if you left.
I don't know if you needed to switch the memory card, but yeah, the controller for sure.
No. Here's the thing: if you switched the memory card, see the way the character was designed to remember all of your moves. So if you switch the memory card into slot 2, he couldn't remember the moves that you had done. And if you switch the controller from slot 1 to slot 2, he couldn't read your moves.
Yeah.
So if you actually switched both, you put him at such a disadvantage. Dude, that was so far ahead of its time.
It was ingenious. It was ingenious. And not only that, but like even on the back end of the back cover of Metal Gear Solid case, it showed Meryl's codec frequency. And if you called her up earlier before you actually met her, the whole thing just it throws it for a loop. And I'm like, get the hell out of here. You can actually do that.
He's so brilliant, dude.
Yeah, Kojima's phenomenal, and Death Stranding's not for everybody, but god damn it, is that story fucking cool? Mm-hmm. And Dimitri was actually, he said he tried playing, Death Stranding. I think he said he played it for like 1 or 2 hours, and I'm like, and he kind of like fell off of it pretty quickly, and I'm like, you got to put a lot more time in that, man. It's a long haul, it's a long one, but if you stick with it, I tell you. The story is wild, but fuck, is it good? So, and one other thing before we move on to the next game, Metal Gear Solid Delta is keeping the original voiceovers. So David Hayter's back in the saddle as Solid Snake, or Naked Snake in this case.
Thank God.
Yeah, I mean, Kiefer Sutherland, I love the guy. I think he did. I mean, I didn't play through Phantom Pain. I played a little bit of it. I think he did okay. But he's no David Hayter.
There's no voice like David Hayter.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work the same way. So, very happy that I thought they redid the voiceover. No, they're just using the original, which is great. So they don't have to they don't have to hire anybody. They just had to get the rights, and that's about it. And it's Konami. They own it. So they didn't probably even have to get the rights. But I do believe they still had to pay the actors because they're reusing their voices. Okay. Next one is, this one kind of, it intrigued me a little bit, similarly to Unknown 9. I don't know if they're same, in terms of the gameplay, but Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, it's a God of War like type of game, modern God of War, not old God of War. Souls Light, it's from the developers of Ashen. It looks good. It looked good from when I first saw it. And then they showed a little bit more here. It does. I say God of War because I think it literally is a spitting image of God of War. Kratos trying to destroy the gods. Whoever this woman is trying to do the same damn thing. She's trying to kill the gods that wronged her. So, unless
she's got a lot of really cool moves.
Yeah,
like her moves look really cool. They look very expressive. They don't look. You know how like some games, they're just very quick moves. It is, everything seems to be moving fast. No, this looks very impactful. You got a lot of variety of weapons.
Yeah.
The combat looks cool. The graphics are not overly impressive. I think the lighting is what's doing it for the graphics, but regardless, it doesn't look bad. It looks all right.
And it's on Unity. It's on Unity engine, so it looks pretty good for a Unity game.
Unity sucks. Well, I hate Unity.
Unity, that whole thing about Unity sucking. Unity is just the engine. It's how people have used it that really sucks.
Listen, you right, but it's also so Alvo runs off of the Unity engine, and it's got its limitations. Yeah. It's not as user friendly. You have to it's more cumbersome than the Unreal Engine. Unreal has made things so much easier for developers.
Yeah.
And Unity just feels antiquated at this point. It cannot reach the fidelity that Unreal can. It cannot reach the quality and ease of programming that Unreal can. Hell, it can't even do what RE does. Like I personally like Unity. It's a fine engine, but it's not going to create the most visually impressive games.
Which is unfortunate because they had that one trailer years ago where they showed off what at the time the most recent update doing ray tracing and stuff like that. So it's like, where's all that stuff? What happened? I thought that was supposed to be a big thing. And then they did their whole stupid thing where it's like, you're going to pay us for every download, blah, 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 blah.
Stupid.
They ruined their goodwill at that point. But yeah, if you're going to build a game as an indie developer, just use Unreal Engine. It's free. It's free. They don't take royalties until you hit 1 million or something like that. And at that point, I mean, royalties are like next to nothing for you. So if your game is that popular. Next one, this one was really unexpected. Age of Mythology Retold. I never got a chance to play. I don't know why I put this as a city builder / 4X game. It's not. It's an RTS, I think, for the most part. I never got a chance to play this game. I remember seeing the box at Best Buy all those years ago, and I'm like, oh man, that game looks cool. I love Greek mythology. And then I never got it.
But there's like Age of Empires, StarCraft, and
yeah, well, that was the thing. We were into those, and Age of Mythology kind of was thrown by the wayside. But it's coming back, and it's coming to console, which is a big win for me. I would have gotten it on PC. I think RTS is mostly probably play better on PC, but there have been examples of RTSs playing quite well on console, not including StarCraft 64, but Battle for Middle-earth 2, that actually was really well done. You have the Halo Wars series that was on Xbox. That I heard was some of the best RTS that people have played. So, I'm excited for this one. I never got a chance to play it. So, hoping big for Age of Mythology Retold. The next one, I don't think anybody actually anticipated to see anything on, was Perfect Dark.
Dude, this talk about coming out of left field. This is such an old title. What was it? N64 was the last time?
No, 360.
Well, was it 360?
But still quite old. That was a launch title for 360, actually. Perfect
was
Dark
it?
Zero, yeah.
I think the last time I played it was like N64 or whatever.
You're not wrong. It's almost 20 years old since the last one.
It's such the fact that they present. I was so excited because Perfect Dark was a title that it was doing unique things. It was along the lines of like GoldenEye, right? Like how foundational GoldenEye was. Perfect Dark was starting to do some cool things.
Yep.
And a lot of people really enjoyed the game, and to showcase this now without hinting at this ever being brought back to life was very exciting to see.
I think they said they originally announced it in like 2019, this new one. So it's been that long. I could be wrong. Dude,
I don't even remember hearing the announcement. Yeah. I mean, but yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. But it gave me Watch Dogs vibes a little bit. Watch Dogs vibes, just kind of given the scene and like the aesthetic a little bit. Obviously, like it's a combination of like urban and urban city mixed with like floral fauna and stuff. But to see some of the tech things utilized, it kind of gave me it just gave me Watch Dogs vibes. But it's really good to see this title come back. Curious to see how it plays. Obviously, with the older titles, they were very janky, but at the time they were really good. So I don't know. What do you think? How excited are you for Perfect Dark?
Perfect Dark. The only one I ever played was Zero. That's a 360 game. I never played the original. People love the original, hate the Perfect Dark Zero. I liked Perfect Dark Zero because it's the only one I ever played. With this one, I love the sci-fi nature of the game, the direction that they went with that, because the previous games I don't think were sci-fi, but this one feels more in the realm of sci-fi, and I'm a huge sci-fi buff, so I'm good with that. The graphics look really good. I don't know what engine it's running on, but overall gameplay looks like it gives you quite a bit of freedom on how to approach a certain objective. So people are going to eat that up. That's sim territory. That's like Dishonored levels of territory there, or Dishonored levels of choice. But there is a controversy surrounding this game, as you might know. Joanna Dark, classically a very attractive woman, not so much in here. She looks very, her face looks really round and very chiseled. And it's like, why is she ugly? Why are you making her unattractive? And it's just this whole thing with Microsoft. They are under the thumb of all these consulting agencies saying, you can't have attractive females in your game. And Joanna Dark, unfortunately, is yet another casualty in the war against attractive women. And it's very unfortunate because her original character was a very good-looking chick, especially in the Perfect Dark Zero game. In the original, she was blocky, so it's like, she didn't really look that good. But Perfect Dark Zero, she was a good-looking chick. And
there seems to be this
she looks like
what they call uglification of characters.
And the Asians are showing us up on that shit too.
The upside here is that it's first person.
Yeah, so you don't have to look at her. I mean, you probably would have to see her in cutscenes if there are any like that. But yeah, you don't have to look at her. It's a first person shooter, so you never have to see her.
And is she necessarily hideous in this game? No, this is not Fable levels of hideousness.
She's not as ugly as the main character for Star Wars Outlaws.
Right. We also have to keep in
not an
mind,
ugly woman, by the way.
We also have to keep in mind we don't know where this is in the timeline. She could be older. Well, and as we all know, as people age, their metabolism slows, and perhaps she did put on a little weight. Maybe this isn't uglification. Perhaps this is just an indication that she is older. But there's also mechanics in here that suggest she's still fit. She's still capable. A lot of parkour mechanics. You see one of the takedowns where she grabs someone, puts her knee on the chest, and then lifts her gun and takes out two other troopers or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's very acrobatic and physical type of stuff. So she's clearly physically fit.
Yeah. She can't be that old.
So either she can't be that old, or she, maybe she is a little bit older and maybe is only capable of doing so much. I don't know. Well, I'm trying to remain optimistic, and I would hope that they're not doing this to make her more ugly for the purposes of, I don't know what, consulting firms or whatever.
Yeah, whatever agenda they're trying to.
Because if you actually look at her body, if you see her fly in, her legs are thin. Her body is fit. Her face is the only thing that seems a bit rounded.
Right. Yeah. She, I don't know.
But I agree with you. There is this trend of uglifying female characters, saying this is a natural woman. And then you look at the mocap person, or at least the person for which Stellar Blade was designed after, that's a real woman. You don't have to make her ugly just to say that's a real woman. You are now just judging beautiful people as not being real women.
Yeah, even though it was designed after one. There's actually a if you look up Perfect Dark in Google and you go to the images, somebody's actually put the side-by-side comparison of the original Joanna Dark, the Perfect Dark Zero Joanna, and now the new one in the middle. And it is just a stark contrast. And, some people have used that argument, well, maybe she's just older. It's like, okay, but they don't get a jawline like that when they get older. All right, let's be honest here. This is ridiculous. Now you're grasping at straws here. She is, I don't know. Obviously none of the characters look the same. Like the original Joanna Dark doesn't look anything like her Perfect Dark Zero character, who doesn't look anything like the new one. But at the same time, it's like, people are like, oh, well, they're just making her look more realistic. Well, then she wouldn't have that jawline. I'm going to keep going back to that. No woman has that jawline, bro, unless they are butch. You know, I've seen female lifters who have that jawline, but that's because of what they do. It's so absurd, and it's one minor thing, but I'd be remiss if I didn't freaking bring it up because it pisses me off. But like you said, it's a first-person shooter. We may not ever see her face, so it doesn't matter. But if they have cutscenes, we probably will, and we're all going to be equally pissed about it. Next one, not as surprised to see it. We got to see a little bit more gameplay, I think, but Fable. Gotta hand it to them. The visuals are unreal.
They are.
But the main character model still is ugly as fuck.
I don't understand either. Like,
you take a look at the real woman; she's gorgeous, and she's they
modeled her after her.
Yeah, well, they slightly improved, and I mean slightly, in this new trailer. It's, you can see it. But again, it's slight.
Like, it's an insult to the woman for whom it's modeled after.
It is, but again, it was a slight improvement, but so slight that it's almost imperceptible. But she does look a little better, but it still looks ugly. And you know what? I don't think the hair on the character is doing her any justice either. Because you take a look at her hairstyle in real life, and it's nothing like that. Whereas the character's hair is really raggedy and, gross looking. I don't think that's helping. So maybe her face looks okay, but the hair is just not doing it for her. I
don't know, because the eyebrows look very bushy.
Yeah,
like they're very thick,
Yeah.
She, like, I have a still frame of her face, and that jawline you were talking about. Again, it's a square jawline.
Yep.
It's very masculine, and a woman. When you look at someone who is transitioning, not to get into this topic, but when you see someone transitioning from a man to a woman, you can tell in what direction they're transitioning, because they're defining features of a masculine skeletal structure.
Just look for that
versus
Adam's
a
apple.
Female. I mean, even if you look at their pelvis, the way that their hips are set, it's vastly different.
Yep.
Between a male and a female. The shoulder breadth is also different. Like, everything about a male structure and a female structure are generally very distinct from each other, and you can tell. So to give a female masculine features is, especially if it's modeled after someone who does not have masculine features, it's a bit of an insult to say, like, you're not ugly enough to represent our character.
I think
so we
also
have to make it ugly.
One big thing about this was the fact that, like, in the initial trailer, and I didn't see too much of it in the new one, but the initial trailer, her teeth were really fucked up.
Yeah, they were.
So I'm not entirely sure. That's not indicative of the real actress.
No.
But again, like, you take a look at the real actress, and she's pretty. She's very pretty. Her jawline is square, but it's not as sharp. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. It's hard to tell.
There's a difference between, like, sharp features and soft features. I mean, like, you can, again, like, the bone structure, where the cheeks are set, where the brow is set, where the chin is set, like, these, you can tell a person is a female based on these things if you know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at another still frame where she's in shadow, and she looks terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
With how the shadow's casting.
And, the thing is that a lot of people are kind of getting sick of companies using the likeness of the actor or actress as the character model, when in reality, that's not, they're actors. You don't need to use their likeness every single time. You can make the character look however you want. Perfect example is Stellar Blade. They didn't use the model's face, even though she is a very pretty woman. They just needed her for her body. I know that sounds sexist, but what do you want? They needed her for her body for the character model, but they used their own face. And she didn't act for the character. She wasn't the actress for the character. It was somebody else. So it doesn't always have to be the person who's playing the character. Nathan Drake doesn't look anything like Nolan North.
No.
So, Let's stop being stupid here.
So I want to speak one more time on just the visual of this character. I actually took a little snippet and put it in our Discord here to kind of showcase the awkwardness of, like, in certain light, the character model doesn't look bad. But
yeah, I think she looks a lot better there with the lights off.
Yeah, but I think this also gives credence to your point of reference to her hair. It gives her this, in that particular still frame. She almost looks like a light bulb, yeah. Like a little thin at the bottom and then just become very round. It doesn't look right, and the shadow casting doesn't do her any justice.
I hope you could change the hairstyle in the game.
Now, if it's Fable, you should be able to.
Yeah.
But speaking to the graphical fidelity, I agree with you. It looks good.
It really does. I don't know what engine they're using, but damn it, do they know what they're doing with it. Visually, very, very, very impressive. I love the dialogue. It's very funny, very tongue-in-cheek comedy.
Yes.
I was laughing most of the time, either in my head or out loud. It was honestly very entertaining. And, that's what I mentioned earlier in stark contrast to Dragon Age. Dragon Age is not supposed to be funny. It's not supposed to be Fable. Fable's always been silly. So don't try and be Fable. And so that's why I liked this, because Fable is a silly game. It's always been about tongue-in-cheek comedy in many, many respects. I think the one that was the darkest one was probably 3, but
yeah, I was going to say 3.
I think it was 3 was like the darkest one, or it could have been the darkest one. But and what gameplay we have seen, which were very short snippets again in this new trailer, it looks good. I don't know how they did it, but it honestly looks really, really good. Combat looks simple, but they were able to keep the visuals really high fidelity.
The whole point of Fable was to grow your character, right?
Right.
So, as your character aged, you will learn new things. You would develop and grow in combat and knowledge, and that would affect your character in the long run. Right. I think that's what was so unique about Fable, is that each character build, depending on the choices you make in terms of growth and development, the relationships you had, it genuinely had an impact on the game itself. So, I hope they keep that going. I hope that remains true in this one, because visually it looks great. But again, as I've been preaching all night, if the gameplay isn't there, the gameplay loop isn't there, and it's not good, visuals don't matter.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. The next one I'm going to skip over just because I found out later it's a 5v5. It's a PvP game, and I'm just like, it's a cool idea, but I'm just not.
Yeah, I'm not interested.
And it's getting pretty late, so we're going to try and like go through these as quickly as we can without going too far. By the way, the one game I was trying to think of earlier, Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. That's the one I was thinking of. That's the other Chinese game that's coming out that looks so freaking good so far. I don't know what the hell that noise was. The next big one, though, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I mean, Machine Games, I've been loving their games ever since they took over the Wolfenstein franchise. They've, aside from Youngblood, which I did play and I was okay with. It wasn't great, but I was okay with it. They've honestly been doing really, really well. And this is their next game. And it looks visually and gameplay wise very good. And when I heard Indiana Jones speak for the first time, I was in awe, because I'm like, holy shit, that sounds just like Indiana Jones, just like young Harrison Ford. Guess who it is?
Who?
It's fucking Troy Baker.
This man is in everything.
The guy, yeah, he's in everything. Like usually, well, Nolan North used to be in everything as well. But yeah, Troy Baker's literally all over the place. You would never know that was him. I didn't know that was him. I'm like, damn, who did they get to play Harrison Ford? Fucking Troy Baker. Are you serious? Talented. The man is a talent, and I love him. He is so fucking gifted. The fact that he can sound that accurate as a young Harrison Ford is unbelievably impressive. He had me. I'm like, who did they get?
Mm-hmm.
Never would have thought Troy Baker.
I thought it could have been like AI generated or something like that.
Something. Maybe they figured. I mean, there are a lot of great impressionists out there. But I never in a million years thought Troy Baker would be the one that they picked to play. Holy crap, that man is gifted. Graphically, one of the most impressive games on the showcase. Not much gameplay was shown, but they made the Wolfenstein games, so I'm not worried about the gameplay. I think they're going to be pretty good. And the music was so good. It's so nostalgic.
It was very true to Indiana Jones, and that is something.
And the original trilogy, by the way. Movies don't exist.
That is often a failed thing, going from movie to video game. And we have seen that time and time again, where it just doesn't transition well. But this looks and sounds, and we'll see if it feels like an Indiana Jones game.
Yeah.
Obviously, I get the Uncharted vibes, but Uncharted was likely inspired by Indiana Jones.
Yes.
I don't know that for certain, but it definitely has that inspiration there. You can sense it. If it plays anything like the Uncharted series, I mean, I am all for it. I'm not a huge fan of Indiana Jones. I enjoyed the movies. But it's not like, oh man, I gotta watch that again. I miss watching it so much. No, it's like, yeah, I saw it. It's all right. It's cool.
Well, for me, is I do wish it was in third person. The fact that it's in first person kind of is a bit of a miss, but first person Uncharted, I guess maybe. Well, it's when you're climbing, it's not in first person. I think it does go to third person. But I do wish it was third person all the way. But, it's machine games. They just know FPSs. So,
yeah, it looks good, man. I'm excited for this one.
And the silliness was actually spot on. I'm like, that is Indiana Jones like humor with the Nazi going, you and your stupid American cartoons, choo choo. It was so stupid, and I'm like, that's exactly what would happen. It was so good. Okay, so that's Indiana Jones. We're gushing over that. Wu Chang Fallen Feathers, I mentioned that one just looking so good. It's another Souls-like. We didn't see much. It wasn't gameplay. It was just a cinematic, but I'm here for it just because it's another Chinese, I think Chinese developer, but also Chinese inspired, if not a Chinese developer.
Well, I mean, we do see some gameplay.
You're right. Yeah, we do.
There's a little bit. There's not a lot to go off of it because it seems like they're primarily boss fights.
Yeah.
Trying to highlight some of the more exciting features of the gameplay, like the animations, the particle effects, the lighting. Very weird looking freaking creatures, dude.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, man. The Asians know what they're doing, man.
It's exciting. It does look good. I don't think it looks nearly as good as Phantom Blade Zero, in my opinion. But I like you've been saying, I'm for it, man.
I'm here for it. They showed more Avowed, which is good. It's Obsidian Entertainment's Skyrim. I'm hopeful that the story lives up to the hype. Now, the visuals and the gameplay, they're very Skyrim inspired. It does look good, probably a little bit more on the fantastical side than Skyrim was, but it looks great. Obsidian, I don't think they personally miss. Their CRPGs are very popular. What I did play of Outer Worlds, I enjoyed. A lot of people didn't like it, but I really liked the humor. I liked the acting, the dialogue. It was all very well done. The gameplay was fun. That's another one I didn't finish, but what I did play of it, I enjoyed. So I don't understand people's dislike of that game. But that was their Fallout. Now they're doing their Skyrim, and I hope they knock this one out of the park because I mean, it's Obsidian, man. They made arguably the best Fallout in the series, so we'll have to see how this one goes for them. Next one is by a developer I didn't expect to actually make a game like this. Atomfall is being made by Rebellion, the guys from Sniper Elite. And I didn't know they were doing this. There was nothing about this. And they're making their own FPS, which is weird because they've only ever been a third-person shooter studio. They're making their own FPS Fallout type of game. So I said it looks like Fallout mixed with Far Cry.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure this is their first FPS, and it's looking pretty good so far. And I say Fallout because it's in the style of, I think it's in the 50s, something like that. So pretty much a similar idea.
Yeah, I was gonna say like post World War II because you can see some of the clothing choices and the weapons that are used. It all screams late World War II, end of World War II kind of.
Yep, and it's looking pretty good. So Rebellion, keep up the good work. I hope this one hits for you guys because Sniper Elite's one of my favorite franchises. So
let's see some gameplay soon.
Let's see some gameplay. Let's see some chutzpah out of you guys. Break away from the Sniper Elite franchise for a little bit. Do something different. The next big hitter is no surprise to anybody. Stalker 2 has been on everybody's mind ever since they announced it. And with the difficulties that the developers had with the conflict in Ukraine, they've had to move. They've had to delay the game because of it. It's looking really good. And I'm a huge fan of the Metro franchise. And that's the franchise that was inspired by the original Stalker games. And to see Stalker come back in such a way where they're right in your face. The visuals are unbelievable. The story looks weird. The voice acting that we saw in the one of the original trailers sounded fantastic. I'm definitely playing it in Russian. I don't like the Metro series in English. It's awful. I think the English acting in those games is terrible. But the Russian sounds better to me just because I don't understand Russian. Just like I played Stellar Blade in Korean. I don't understand Korean, but it sounds better to me. So, I'll play it in that.
And what better setting than Chernobyl, where weird stuff could possibly happen,
Yeah, I mean, weird stuff happened there in real life. And, well, weird, I say. But it does look good. Yeah, I put a note in here that says, still unsure of how the gameplay is going to work as it hasn't really been explained, but I'm still excited nonetheless. And I think that has something to do with like tossing those bolts, using them to find creatures to take out or whatever. So they didn't really go in depth of how that works, but I'm sure people who are fans of the Stalker franchise know exactly how it works. So
I like some of the environmental effects, like the twister and the flying debris. I like some of there was a fight scene in the warehouse that had some really cool illumination from behind the enemy that you were shooting at. That looked really good. Like it's visually appetizing, right?
Right.
It has very good look to it, despite it being a mutated area with some time warp things going on. I don't know. There seem to be these patches of some time distortion or area distortion. It's weird. And like you said, you never know what direction the storyline is going to go down, but they showed a lot of narrative pieces, which suggests they really want you to focus on what the story is about. So if they can get all those pieces fitting together well, it looks good. It looks, I don't want to say it looks unique or differentiates itself, to a great degree,
right?
But it could be a good interpretation of or a different storyline within the same setting that a lot of games are set in.
Yeah, and it is on Unreal Engine 5, so that's why it looks so good. And recently, the original 3 Stalker games were released on console for the first time ever. in a remaster, and I would like to grab those games. I haven't, but people in my stream have asked me to play those games, and they've asked that I don't play them until they're there, unless they're there. Well, those people rarely come by the stream to begin with, so probably won't be playing those on stream anyway. But very excited for this because Metro is a great franchise, and I have no doubt that Stalker's just as good because Metro was inspired by it. The last game was
I got chills with this one.
A surprise for sure. Okay, I mentioned earlier waiting on Gears 6 if there is going to be one. However, I think what they're doing right here with Gears of War E-Day, they dropped the whole Gears 4, Gears 5. It's Gears of War again, but it's E-Day, meaning day one of the invasion of the Locust. And we get to see Marcus and Dom broskies as young men starting in this war. And the trailer musically and emotionally hit every single note perfectly, because you remember the Mad World trailer of the original.
Yeah, I
do.
You
had it in there, and you're just like, oh my God. And
this hit all the right notes. I mean, like every point that you could have, like you hit the nostalgia points, and you're touching upon a story that has gone untold. And it like visually, of course, it looks good. We don't have any gameplay, but knowing Gears of War, it's probably going to be the same. But you see the collapse of society, and like you said, you see Marcus and Dom as young people, and you don't see them, at least Marcus in that fight scene, you don't see him performing in a very confident way.
Right.
He looks afraid.
Yeah.
He looks scared. You don't get that in Gears of War 1, 2, or well, was he in 3? What?
Yeah, he's in all of them.
Yeah. You don't see that. It's been a long time since I played 3. I played 1 like over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But you see a more mature, war-torn Marcus in those games, and now you get to see him in a more vulnerable, fragile state at the very start of this whole catastrophe.
He is, as they say, green.
And it's brilliant because it brings a whole new meaning to not only the relationship, but seeing where it all started. This caught everybody off guard, and
big time.
It makes me excited. I didn't really care for the Gears of War games after 3. I played 1, 2, and 3, and after that I was like, I don't need to really worry about it. This makes me want to play them again. It just makes me want to play them again.
Yeah. And you know, a lot of people were actually thinking it was going to be Halo at the end. You know, they were like, we got one more thing for you. And a lot of people were really hoping for Halo. And I'm like, okay, Infinite's not that old, though. Why would they announce another Halo game? They're too busy trying to work on it. Yeah. They're still too busy trying to work on Infinite and make it relevant, and failing horribly at that. But this was an amazing way to end the entire thing. I think what they did here was brilliant. E-Day is something that we have not experienced. We have not gone through. We always heard about it. And the first game was, I think, a couple years after E-Day. But, you know, this is going to be, maybe we actually get to see the reason why Marcus ended up in a jail cell. You know, this might be the reason we find out he was in there in the first place in the first game. Spoiler alert. He was in a jail cell. So I'm really excited for this one. To see Dom again is also just awesome, because he is a character that I'm not going to say he didn't get really explored that much. We got to learn about his past, what happened to his wife. We did get to learn about him, but not to an extent like Marcus. Marcus was obviously the main character. He was the focus, and he got the spotlight. But Dom was such a strong supporting character, and we didn't get enough of him. So it's going to be nice to see him again and see how these two grew together while in this conflict.
I was gonna touch upon that point as well. That Dom seemed like a side character, but he seemed to be the grounding for Marcus. Like it was almost as if they were a pair. But you, like you said, you never really explored Dom, but Dom was so significant to Marcus. It was evident in the first game, but you never truly understood why. Like, right. How were they best friends? Why did they get so close? Why did they have such a different relationship than Marcus had with everybody else? And not in like, it was like like you said, broski kind of way, yep. Right? They were almost, I don't know. I don't want to say inseparable, but they were so dependent and trusting in each other.
The classic bromance.
This is, dude, I don't know where they're going to go with this, and I don't even know how far in development this game is. I don't think anyone really does, but man, this was a curveball. I mean, this entire showcase started off with a banger and ended with a banger. You got Black Ops 6, which is highly anticipated, looks really good, might set Black Ops and Call of Duty kind of back on track for a period of time. And then you end it with an absolute curveball, a game series that needed some revitalization, and people have been waiting for another Gears of War for so long.
Yep.
And in the middle, you just had a showcase of great looking games with a lot of potential. It was just very exciting showcase all around. I mean, you couldn't have asked for something better. Sony fell short. I also feel like the Summer Games Fest was not as exciting.
Not that strong.
And then here comes Xbox, and it's just like hit after hit after hit. Aside from Veilguard, even Starfield looked good. So
and with Gears of War, it's not like the franchise is hated by people. I think generally people enjoyed 4 and 5, but like you said, it does kind of need that refreshing, because luckily Gears of War is a game that stays dormant for a while and is developed very well. And the games don't come out incompetent. They come out very well done. They come out performant, and the story and the gameplay is generally really well received. So Gears of War is still a great franchise that people still love to this day. And I think it's due to the fact that it doesn't come out every year. It's not stale. And so I like the fact that they're spacing this out. But you know, Gears 4 and 5 are still not revered as Gears 1, 2, and 3. You know, people like them, but not by that much. This is going to be a great thing. And not only that, but Gears War E-Day is the first one that's going to be on Unreal Engine 5. So there's no doubt in my mind, it's going to be on Unreal Engine 5. So that's going to visually just take it all up a notch, because if anybody knows how to work with Unreal Engine, it's Coalition. So I'm very excited to see this, not only from a gameplay standpoint, but from a visual standpoint. They are going to make Unreal Engine 5 look good. One last thing, and this has nothing to do with the conferences. I just saw this when I went on to Twitter. Apparently Dead Rising is getting a remaster. So there's that. I like the original. The original's good. I didn't like the second one as much. I actually never finished it because I hated it so much. I didn't hate it. It was the mechanic of like, oh, I got to get my daughter some Zombex so she doesn't turn into a zombie. And it's in the middle of this giant room on the top of like a Ferris wheel where there's 110,000 zombies right around it. And I'm like, fuck. And it's the dumbest mechanic ever. So, and I'm not alone in that one. But that's cool. Dead Rising came out of nowhere with a remaster, I guess. So I'm going to have to look at that trailer after we're done here. But anyway, so that's everything, guys. It has been a long haul. 5 hours we just hit.
See how much you can compress that, sir.
Yeah, I don't think I can. I never really was intending to. It's how I'm going to edit that Ubisoft section in.
It could be its own separate thing if you want it to be.
It could be. It's an hour long in its own way, but it's not always. It's not all about Ubisoft. Our whole conversation. It was kind of all over the place, but it could be its own little thing. We'll see. All in all, if the Ubisoft section gets taken out, it wasn't a good show. All right. Done.
There you go.
But that's it. That's the conferences. Thank you to anybody who made it all the way through this podcast. I know a lot of people love throwing podcasts on in the background and just doing whatever they do. If that's what you do, great. Throw us on in the background. We like being background noise. And we really appreciate your time and attention as always, ladies and gentlemen. You guys are great. And I hope you guys enjoyed our breakdown of the conferences, even though it's almost a month later. I told you, this podcast is kind of whenever we can do it. So we're glad that you guys came back, and hopefully you enjoyed this particular podcast, as it was a quite lengthy one, a lot longer than our normal podcasts will be. But this is a special occasion because these are the showcases that just happened, and we wanted to talk about them. So it is 1:45 in the morning, and I think we both have lives to get to tomorrow, so we have to end this here. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen, so much for joining us, and please join us in the next one, where we'll talk about my little mishap on the PlayStation, and I certainly would love to hear what Chris has to say, because well, it has a lot to do with the freedom of speech. But you know, we'll get to that next time. For Chris, I'm Adam Wolf, and we will see you guys in the next one.
Bye-bye.